Welcome to the Visual Cast. I'm your host, Alon Hammer, aka Rem. The Visual Cast is a hybrid podcast where we interview some of the most unique, interesting, high level, and exciting artists from all over the world. Entering into season 2, we will be starting a monthly live stream to our paid subscribers. To join in on the live stream with Q&As, polls, and some surprises, click on the join button below. Your subscription will massively support our channel and bring us further to creating a community of like-minded individuals who love, create, and immerse themselves with the visual arts and the visual world. For those unable to join financially, don't worry. The episode, like all of our episodes, will be available on Thursdays for everyone to watch. And if you want to support us, like and subscribe and share with anybody you think will enjoy the podcast. I really hope you guys enjoy this episode. Now, without any further ado, here's the Visual Cast.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride.
Welcome to the Visual Cast. Super excited by today's guest. I love having friends on the podcast, people that I, have met in person or have some sort of affinity to outside of just being really talented and special artists. And today's guest is it falls into that category. I'm just super excited to have him. It's been kind of a long time coming. I've tried to get him on for a while. A very busy man. Welcome to the podcast, Angel Rivera, aka Sage Arts.
Hi everyone. My name is Angel Rivera. I'm Sage Arts Designs. How's it going?
I'm good. It's going good. I was telling Angel before, I'm very caffeinated, so please, I'm sorry if I talk too much. I just can't help it. I'm trying to get off coffee. I've been in like I've been in the cacao era for like 2 years, but I've low on cacao, high on coffee. So hopefully my order will come in soon.
I've been drinking. This is actually mushroom coffee, which is
nice.
I think, yeah, it's like 30 milligrams of caffeine instead.
Nice.
It took a while, but it does the job versus almost 200 milligrams
Coffee.
A day of caffeine.
For sure. I really, ever since I got into cacao, shout out Aura Cacao. I really haven't turned back. I just really have not. I'm just low. That's really the reason.
Yeah.
You
gotta get sponsored by them at this point.
I really should.
Yeah.
Okay, so Angel, how you doing, bro? I want to talk a little bit about. We have a lot to talk about. This is very exciting. We also did like a crazy setup for this. Angel did a crazy setup for this, so I'm super excited. I see you're ready. You're in the lab coat. Let's kind of get a little bit acquainted with your work. So I'm going to show your Instagram here a little bit, and start off with a few questions. I kind of, you just came back from Soundhaven. I'm not sure if we have any of that here. Here we go. Oh no, that's a while ago.
None of my stories are on there. Yeah,
none of your stories are on here. So, just tell me a little bit about Soundhaven. This is like kind of one of the first times, or at least, a pretty recent time that you've taken your liquid light, for lack of a better term, microscopic, physical, real-time visuals into a stage kind of like that. So tell me, how was that, while we kind of look at your work?
Sure, it was fun. I did a lot more recording prior to getting there, doing some post-editing to some footage, just because it is a lot to bring onto a location, especially when you only are doing a couple sets on a stage. Overall, pretty good. I feel like a lot of VJs are beginning to think about as far as content creation, because realistically, I started noticing different moments where people were using liquid and different types of footage in their sets. And I think it's
Mm,
cool. I think the only
interesting.
thing that really will help people elevate is kind of doing what I'm trying to do, where instead of scouring the internet for the perfect content,
Sure.
you make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I also late at night did a quick setup where I was setting up so that way if another VJ wanted to be able to use the textures I was sending out, I had a little table and set up some quick lights, some quick liquids moving, and just was able to
Dude,
send out that way.
that's so
Um,
cool. I love that.
yeah, I
I
think
love that.
Soundhaven, one of the things I do appreciate a lot about it from the VJ community is there's a level of collaboration and
Mm,
community in the VJs that get picked for it.
mm.
There is a level of seeing different styles of VJing kind of come together, which I think is a really good learning experience for everybody.
Totally. Anytime you can kind of bring in the collab aspect of VJing, I think that first of all the VJs respond to it super well because we kind of like that, and obviously
Yeah.
the festival benefits from that, and the content and the production benefits from that. Not to get too dramatic here, but I have heard that that Soundhaven isn't so good with paying VJs. Is that still true, or is that not the case anymore?
I mean, I whenever I work Soundhaven, I live pretty close to it. I live about 2 hours away because I live in Nashville.
Man, this is so cool.
Um,
This bubbles.
Yeah, actually, this clip, I'm funny enough, I was just re-editing this clip last night,
So cool.
just because I really like doing shots with bubbles. Um, you can do a lot. Like, I think bubbles is out of all the different types of fluids and liquids I work with. I know a lot of people are always asking me about. A lot of people are always asking me about ferrofluid, and I always tell
Mm.
them the dangers of ferrofluid. But realistically, one of my favorite things is just
The
bubbles.
bubbles.
They're
Yep.
simple. They
Yep.
have really cool movement. You can do
Yep.
so much with them underneath a
And the
microscope or even a macro
refraction and
lens.
like the way that the light moves through it, it's like so cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, and even the way that the light moves through it, you're able to capture different hues. If it's even if it's just one-sided, so you can do a lot with it.
Mm.
It looks like you're getting more into my 3D work too.
I
That's
am.
funny.
I am. I am. I want to. Because Angel is not only starting to become a master at the liquids, he is already a master at 3D and real-time Unreal and stuff like this. So, yeah. Sorry, I cut you off about the
Yeah,
Soundhaven thing. If we don't have to talk about it too much.
no
Just like
worries.
your quick two
No,
cents
no,
on
no
it.
worries. Yeah. The Soundhaven thing, like I said, whenever I work it, I try to think of it
Amazing.
more as an example to work with other VJs,
Mm-hmm.
to think of different ways of kind of collaborating.
Mm.
Also, just like I don't know, it's the pay thing. I understand a lot of VJs don't make it out because of it,
Yeah.
but I can't really say too much about it to be honest.
No, fair enough. I think that it's one of those things that, it's very hard to know if somebody's just, and I say this with all due respect, but butthurt by not being
Of course.
booked. But then there's also like I think the real fear of the global VJ community is just the value. And I don't know anything about
Right.
Soundhaven. I have never been invited or anything like that. I'm just kind of parroting what I've heard. And actually, what I've heard is that they're actually very respectful to the VJs. And like you said, the
Yeah.
collaboration, there's just an issue of like value to like what they're getting. And I think that that's really, it's an
Yeah.
education thing. It's like, maybe it's an education thing. Maybe it's also like, maybe it's like, and I'm saying this completely without knowing any of facts. So please, correct me if I'm wrong, other people or
Yeah.
you. But
And,
sometimes I think it's like, sorry, sometimes I think it's just like, the festival or the organizers get a lot of bang for their buck, which is a good thing, right? But
mm,
then instead of empowering that and like doubling down and, then being like, okay, well, we got a lot of bang for our buck. Now let's put a lot of buck into our bang. They just keep on doing a lot
yeah.
of bang for their buck. And like you said, young and excited VJs who want to have a stage, which is a totally normal and good thing, kind of don't understand that. But, where does the
I will
thing begin and
say
where does the
from a
thing end? Who knows?
Right. I will say from a more experienced VJ standpoint, whenever I've
This is
gone
so
to,
cool.
this is, I believe, my third Sound Haven in a row. Yeah, I love this one.
I love it. I love it.
Um, This is my third. Actually, the one that you clicked off of
Yeah.
was the continuation of that one. The
This
one
one?
right next to it, I think.
This one?
Yeah, that one. It was.
Oh,
It just
nice.
had like an opening. The
Oh
previous
yeah.
one. But this is just other shots too. But I think as a more experienced VJ, whenever I've gone to Sound Haven, it is more of a experience to kind of show and share with the other VJs.
Yeah.
As being a VJ there, the festival and the staff treat you very well.
Nice. That's
There's
always
never a
important.
moment where, yeah, yeah. Um, so I understand the moments of, wow, this is far back into myself. This is funny. But yeah, these are like insanely far back. This is a
Okay,
whole
but
different
it looks
world.
cool as fuck. So we're gonna look at it.
Sure. But I think that there is a certain level where Soundhaven still is, as far as budget goes, has to worry about budget. I understand that.
Yeah.
When they did approach me about it, I understood the may not be the best, but like I said, at least on my end, I can't fault anyone else that it was an issue for. At least
Right.
on my end, I live pretty close to the festival.
Right.
Budgeting wise, I was able to really kind of think about a little bit
It made
different
sense
versus
to
other
you.
people. That's yeah. Versus, I can't say that other people have that same luxury.
Yeah.
I understand that cost is an issue for people.
Yeah.
Just as there are festivals in the West Coast that a lot of friends can make easier versus me, where I have to think about the budget of my own. You know.
Totally. And I think that we're in like this kind of post world where the let's call it like the I can't think of the right word, but like the older people, like the more experienced people in the scene have already voiced their opinion about payments and costs, and it's like now it's kind of down
Yes.
to education of promoters and festivals and the younger generation
Yes.
deciding, hey, do we want to continue this way or are we going to shift? And it's like, at the end of the day, I think that it's really in their hands, because I think as the older generation, we can, first of all, we have like a much better understanding of like, is this going to be worth my effort, time, promotion, etc., and it's not like the promoter saying to you, hey, you're going to get exposure. It's like me saying to myself, I'm going to enjoy myself, I'm going to get something out of it. And people have to learn that for themselves,
It's a
like what.
choice at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, but it should be a
And
choice.
unfortunately,
It shouldn't be a young VJ being like, oh, I'm going to go here and get exposure, because that's like the wrong attitude to have. It's like you should be getting
right.
both, really. You know.
Well, one of the things
I don't
at
know.
one point I did talk to one of the younger, kind of, I don't want to say starting out kind of VJs, about Soundhaven. I did talk to her a little bit about this. She pointed out that she lives in a state where there's really not many other VJs, and being there was a cool experience for her to meet other VJs,
Yeah.
talk to other VJs that she didn't
Yeah.
have before. And it was one of the first festivals that she had worked,
Nice.
which honestly, as someone that has been working in the scene for a while, VJing at festivals, meeting other VJs, it kind of spoke to me. When I first started, I was in the army, and I was
Thank you for your
practicing with
service.
projectors. Thank you. I was practicing with projectors in my barracks room, and the closest thing I had was Facebook groups, talking to other VJs, VJ Global, a couple other ones, and then it ended up, once I got back to the States, once I got out, I was able to network and meet other VJs, which was such a cool experience that it really
Totally.
showed me how open and really accepting this community is.
100%. It's so interesting. I just there's two things that pop into my mind. One is that there's a lack in America of light festivals, and like the only
Hmm.
place for us to meet is like either you're in like the touch designer community or like the generative community that have a lot of events, or at festivals. There's no like
Right.
light, or like there's a few, but like in Europe, it's like every city has a yearly light festival with projection mapping and installations and stuff like this. It's so missing here. And the second thing is like I'm the same. Like when I first got into VJing, where I got introduced to Touch Designer, where I got introduced to Realtime, was at a light performers meeting. So it was like a, like a meetup. It wasn't Touch Designer specific.
Mhm.
It was like VJ general, or like light, performing general. So
Right.
that's like a really important aspect. Now, if you need to go to a festival and work and perform and travel and, have to be kind of like, you're not going, like, I don't know, you're not going there. You're going there to meet other people, but that's not like the point of the event. So it's like a little
I
bit of a
see.
weird middle space. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I wish that Soundhaven, or not Soundhaven specifically, but I wish that, that girl that you're talking about, that starting VJ, had a like VJ meetup event, or had a light, like a light festival that she could go to, have her installation, have whatever, learn with other people, and
Yeah,
it's not
I
like
think
around
that
the. Does that make sense?
I think that um with that in mind, you also have to think about in the style of VJing. We look at VJing not only as production work, as far as professional outlet, a very specific, you're part of crew of a festival kind of mind state. But you
Yeah.
also look at it as the art that it is, as the
Yeah.
creative platform that
Yeah.
it is. And
Totally.
unfortunately, in the States, you have to think about there are some light kind of like festivals
There are a
that I've looked
bunch.
up. I know there's some in Toronto,
Yeah, there's a bunch.
some in yeah. There's not really many across the U.S., but a lot of them are a
Mm,
lot more focused on the installation artwork. Um,
totally.
I know I've talked to a few even in Nashville where it's focused on installation work, which realistically the biggest issue for VJs at that point is they just don't know about them.
Totally.
Unfortunately, a lot of those communities are based on smaller budgets and only really advertising to people in their own community already.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. And
And it's not
it's less
from
projection mapping, it's less like, the like you said, it's like light installations, which again is
yeah.
part of that
I
whole
will say
thing, but
too, I know
yeah.
something that I feel like is kind of lost in like the younger VJ movement nowadays versus I want to say back when I first started or even, a few years ago. Projection mapping is becoming is a lost art.
Yeah.
A lot of times you're seeing VJs that the most when they first start out, they start out on flat walls, they end up and they go straight to LED walls. They
Right,
never have to
right, right. They don't
learn
have that
how to do
experience.
projection
Yeah,
mapping. Yeah,
totally.
and especially because a lot of venues no longer utilize projectors. A lot of venues utilize LED walls across the board. Even when they start getting into working at local venues, they don't have that same aspect of having to understand how to blend projectors, multi-map projectors to different surfaces, and
Yeah.
just how to be able to literally go into advanced output and do some cool stuff.
Yeah, that's like kind of like one of those, and again, like definitely no shade, because I think that, we've had this conversation about LEDs versus projections before with many people,
Yep.
but it's like kind of those things of like, yeah, like a VJ is a VJ and a projection mapping artist is a projection mapping artist. Obviously, they overlap and they combine, but
Yeah.
it's funny because if you go to in Europe, if you're an up and coming VJ or a starting VJ, you don't know you don't really do LED screens. Maybe some in some venues and stuff like that, but in most of the electronic music scene in Europe, it's mostly projection mapping.
Which I think is
Maybe
honestly, if you, I think it's cool because from a creative standpoint, it makes us that way when you're, let's say, if you're a content creator, so you're also creating the actual content you're playing, you're thinking about the final output before you even hit step one. And
right.
because of that, you're creating content. Let's say, for example, if you're mapping cubes, because like I said, when I first started, I was mapping boxes in my barracks room. So having one of the first things I ever created, I made a bunch of little gift boxes look like a city with lights
Nice.
and little like
Hell
people
yeah.
moving around, and I was so proud of it, even though it was like maybe a foot tall. And it's that kind of helped me feel like the pride that comes with
Mm,
VJing. I
mm.
think that a lot of newer VJs, I definitely recommend just utilizing projectors. I used
Yeah.
to, when I was first starting out, I used to drive around with three projectors in my car at any given time, just ready to go.
It's ready to go. That's awesome. I love
Don't
that.
recommend doing that. but also you never know.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because it's like, again, like there's, you could definitely devil's advocate this and say, well, when you're creating content for a stage, it's a lot of it's a totally different, or maybe even like totally different but worse kind of like design a problem versus like when you're making art for like a screen, it's much more akin to like content creation of like, Instagram, online stuff, 16 by 9. It's more filmic. It's more. So
Yeah,
there is like a benefit to focusing on making your art look really good when it's just that piece. But I think you're right. Like in terms of like
yeah,
the creative mind, the brain, when you have to solve or figure out how to like make a stage look cool, it's a lot more of like I don't know what, like it's a lot more of like the
it's a lot
performing
more.
aspect. It's a lot more
Yeah, I
what?
was gonna say a lot more of a nuance because I was gonna say
Yes, yes.
one thing I did notice at Soundhaven. Actually, I noticed just in general, a lot of VJs when they first start out, they don't they don't look into some really good programs. Like for example, StageFlow, Chaser, two absolute game changers.
Right.
I When I started using those programs, I remember a friend of mine who had been using them for a while told me it gives you the ability to look at the stage not as just a screen, but as a piece. So you're
Right.
looking at the stage as a almost like a fixture. In
Yeah,
fact, this year
totally.
I talked to my LD after light guy after the set, and he complimented me because it was like, I like how you use the stage, the individual pieces of the stage,
Yeah.
and have a lot more negative space versus other people.
Yeah,
Another thing
it's such a
is,
good point.
don't be afraid to turn off the wall. Like that's
Yeah.
something that like
Black.
I've had to talk to people about
Totally.
because having negative space of the wall also gives more space for the LDs, your laser guys,
Totally.
your whole
Totally.
team to really punch it because you want the whole stage to look good, not just the video,
The
you know?
visuals. Yeah. Yeah. And it also gives
Yeah.
the audience a moment to like be like, what am I looking at? What's going on? Um, but such a good point for like, if it's not, if like Soundhaven is a big LED with like a almost like a round kind of UFO looking kind of thing. And it's a good point to say like, if you don't
Yeah,
know,
they have
if you
two
don't
different
think about
stages.
mapping, then you're not thinking about like that kind of array of LEDs, right? Because you're just like, oh, this is one thing.
Right.
Such a good point. Okay, so um, moving on, or moving backwards, actually. You grew up in New
Okay.
York, and then you went to school in, I have here, Texas and Tampa online, and then Nashville in person. So,
Yep.
you're kind of a New Yorker, but you're kind of not a New Yorker. I would think that you're Californian if I met you just out of the blue, but kind of knowing you a little bit
That's
more, you are
funny
pretty New
because I
Yorky.
have a pair of Tims in my closet.
You have
Like
a
I said, I
what?
have a pair of Tims in my closet at all given times.
So can you
I
tell
haven't
me a
been
little
back
bit?
in New York in a while.
Okay.
Go ahead,
I
sorry.
want to hear. No, no. I want to hear a little bit about you growing up in New York. Did it shape your
Sure.
outlook on art? How did it shape your outlook on, you're very geeky and very like, focused and nerdy. What was that experience like?
Aw,
And
saying that to someone in a lab coat. That's funny.
yeah. Oh, I'm a nerd. I'm a nerd. What was
Whoa.
growing up growing up in New York? Give us a little bit about it, and yeah, let's go from there.
Sure. So I grew up in New York. I actually grew up on the same block as Wu-Tang in the 90s.
Damn,
I
represent.
grew up in, yeah, Wu-Tang Clan. I grew up in Staten Island. Ever since I was a teenager, I was super into art. I was super into digital art. Learned Photoshop when I was like 15, and then fell in
Nice.
love with just art in general. One of the things that my first job was at a print company, and my boss had told me for every program I learn, they are able to pay me more. So
Wow, that's
immediately I was
crazy.
like, I need to learn more programs.
That's so cool.
Um, Eventually, I went from thanks. Eventually I went from going from print design to video. I worked at a sports and hip hop magazine for a little while
Nice.
in Florida, and then um, my mom was always very supportive of me being a
Mm.
professional in the art fields, and
Nice.
even from a young age, I knew I wanted to go to college for art.
Mhm.
I ended up joining the army for about 6 years, and then even while I was in, I was still doing art. I was still designing things, freelancing, networking a lot. Um, in fact, the first time I met somebody that was another VJ was in Korea. Um,
Wow,
and
that's
then,
crazy.
yeah. And then when I moved back I got stationed in Texas, and and it was kind of my final like duty station point. I remember going to a show and seeing the animations that they were using for projection mapping was some of the ones that come default with Resolume. So I
Oh
asked,
no, that's so funny.
yeah, I asked, can I talk to the VJ at the end of the night? They were like, and the security guard was like, yeah, no one ever wants to talk to him. Everyone wants to talk to the DJ. Um, talk to him. Shout out to Rudy. I don't think he's gonna watch this, but you never know. Talk to him, and we started messaging back and forth on Facebook, and he was like, hey, we have a show coming up this following weekend. Bring your controller. Me being naive at the time, I was like, oh, I guess he just needs a backup physical controller because we both
Mhm.
use the same one.
Mhm.
I show up and he was like, hey, so plug in. You're using the house computer. You're controlling for the openers. It was
Mm.
a 5,000 people show, and that was my
Oh
first
my
show.
god, that's
Um,
awesome. That's so cool.
yeah, so learning all the things you don't learn until you're performing, for example, no wallpapers, no wallpapers, simple stuff in case of Resolume crashes. But learning all that on the fly, and then by the end of it, he said, "You're doing really good. You're controlling for the headliners." That was my first show, and then after that, I was working shows almost every week. I started getting more into the VJ community pretty quickly. I now work with a lot of VJs, not only in the sense of creating content, but also just collaborative stuff. So,
Mm.
for example, I get commissioned a lot to create content for tours, for different shows. And I love it. I love it. It makes us that way at the end of the day. I've also worked in 3D motion for corporations. I still do. Um, I freelanced for Sony,
Nice.
Amazon. I used to work for Smile Direct Club as their 3D designer, and then a few other ones. But there's just a certain love of VJing that I tell about, even if I'm not directly VJing, and I just can see it all come together. There's a certain love of that you just don't get when you're doing an ad.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. You couldn't have said it better. You know, so many things there I want to touch on. I think just you mentioned your mother being supportive of your art. Such a
Yep.
beautiful thing, and I think that it speaks volumes to you as a person, and also like kind of knowing you a little bit, your passion for this whole kind of art world, and just teaching and inspiring and sharing and collabing. Yeah, is your mother an artist as well? Did she have this kind of affinity, or?
No, my mom actually was worked in the medical field for most of my life, and
Mm.
then she's now a truck driver.
Oh wow, interesting.
Yeah, so I
Interesting.
make the joke I was the weird one that decided to go do art.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Um, Fascinating. So, okay, the army, I definitely, we can talk about obviously for
Yeah,
forever. I think it's more of like a post set discussion because it's a little bit more
yeah, yeah.
specific, and for me, it always gets very heavy. But, um, you know, uh, uh, in just kind of like just to give us a little bit more of a timeline here. When you were in the army, like what made you want to pick up art, like in projection mapping and playing with all this? You kind of have it. I guess you had it from before, playing with Photoshop and After Effects and all these kind of
Yeah, yeah.
programs. But did it just like lead into the army, and you kind of were just like, okay, I should
No,
kind
no.
of
I was
focus?
working in the army kind of already at the time, and I decided at one point, I went to a show, and I think this was when I first was getting kind of exposed to electronic music. And I remember at the time I was using After Effects and I was learning After Effects. I just felt kind of like a hiccup where I was like, well, if I want to show people and present my art to people, the I guess I have to build a website and get more into web development or
Right, right, right.
create it. Like it just felt
Yeah,
like a stuck moment. And I remember
interesting.
going to a show and seeing a and seeing the same animations that I had just learned from a tutorial
Right,
on the
on the
video
screen.
wall on
Right.
jumbotrons. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that it clicked. I was blown away. I was like, I never thought to see everything in a synchronized manner where
Mm,
it was the visuals, where it was lights, lasers, environmental. It was so many things all come
mm.
together to create this beautiful experience. From that point on, I
You were
remember
hooked.
just literally standing there thinking, I was like, I want to do this. I want to do
Mm,
this now. And
amazing.
ever since then, been doing it for a while now.
Yeah, you've got almost a decade, I think, right? Or over a decade? Are we at a decade or?
Almost a decade. I think a little bit over. Technically, my first show was in 2014, but I did
Mm,
take a year or two off just to focus on school and a bunch of other things.
nice.
But for the most part, almost a decade.
Super cool. So I love that. I love the the kind of the getting into MoGraph when you're like a kid and like realizing that
Hmm.
MoGraph is like this huge, endless kind of like pit of
Massive. Yeah.
mass, like where do I want to go, this way, this way, this way, this way, and finding your passion for live performance, I think is a really it's a really it's a wonderful story. Okay, so you're kind of like post army, you're performing, you're getting into visuals, you're making your own content. What pushes you into kind of Unreal 3D? Was there any like big shift there? Because it's so, people don't really realize that, yeah, MoGraph could be 3D, but a lot of times, most of us, if not, I'd say probably all of us, start from like 2D
Mhm.
After Effects stuff, get into like elements or like something in 3D, and then it's like, wait, I want to do more
Yeah.
of this. I want to kind of like understand it more. Yeah. So how did you get
Um,
into that kind of stuff?
Two words that every single VJ that has ever made anything 3D will know, and I will say trigger warning: render time.
Okay. Yeah.
The
Oh, I'm so triggered. I'm so triggered.
yeah, I have been using Cinema 4D for a long time,
Mm,
and it's kind of my main workhorse of 3D. Even to this day, I use it mainly for my 3D modeling, 3D rendering, and when I worked at Smile Direct Club, we did have a lot of render time, a lot of making sure everything
mm,
looked good, and if it was any small issue, then we were all having to put our computers on pretty much standby because we need to all render.
right.
Around then, I already had experience with Unreal because I had previously been part of a virtual reality meetup group where
Mm.
I was learning how to design experiences for virtual reality.
Oh, cool.
But didn't think about it in more of a professional workflow.
Mm-hmm.
Once I realized like you can, with a little bit of time and effort, you can learn how to be able to use Unreal in a way to do literally real time rendering. One of the projects that I presented to some of my coworkers at the time was I took one of our animation spots and remade it in Unreal, and I pointed out I could pop out a 4K video in 20 minutes versus
Wow.
prior that would take a couple of days.
That's awesome.
But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's
besides
yeah, sorry, continue.
besides that, Unreal's great for a lot of things. I use it more nowadays with real time in mind. Not only does it save me a lot of time in creation of actual visuals and clips and tour content, but also saves me. It gives me the ability to program it using OSC, a bunch of different other network protocols to be able to output in real time. We had used it recently for immersive at the Red Rocks, and one of the
Hell yeah.
shots that we did was having a camcorder look at the crowd and it opens up and you can see the crowd as it's zooming in.
Nice,
So
nice,
using
nice, nice.
live camera feed into Unreal
Yeah,
with control points through Resolume.
super cool.
So thank you,
Super
thank you.
cool. Yeah, I mean, people are. I mean, people. You know, there's so much cool stuff happening with Unreal right now. Just
Absolutely.
have you heard of? Do you know Ghost Stream? Have you
Yes, of
seen his
course.
stuff? So
Yeah, of course. So GhostStream's account is something that like kind of inspired me to think more into
control.
the OSC mind state, the
Yeah,
control points of being able to use Unreal and control your scenes through Resolume.
yeah,
Um, Once you realize a lot of it is OSC based, you can use Wire to build out OSC controllers. It gives you the ability, or Touch Designer, as we talked about, whatever you at first whenever I was programming.
sorry.
No, I thought that was my computer. I'm not
Yeah, you're like,
that scared me.
whoa.
For a second, I because I have you full screen on my laptop. um but um there's so many different ways you can control Unreal. It also made me get more into the virtual production mind state, where virtual production is kind of key to where Unreal is so big nowadays, because you have The Mandalorian, you have so many major movie and show productions that use Unreal every single day to create live stages, to create non-green screen CGI. My kind of concept of how I want to use Unreal more is focus on, and this is something I already do. I focus a lot on realism. I believe that in um, the best way I could put it is art imitates life and life imitates art. So you should be able to look at everything from a flower to liquids to different micro and micro, which is part of the reason I've gone down this path, and get inspired from it. And
Mm,
using that mind state whenever I work on anything in Unreal, which is really good at it, I try to create as realistic visuals as possible.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Unreal is amazing at doing so. I think that a lot of people could really learn a lot from jumping into it. But I will say the biggest issue I see a lot of people do is they jump into Unreal with no experience of other 3D programs, and they're like, I don't know
Of
what a
course.
polygon is.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
You
yeah,
gotta start
yeah,
somewhere. So
yeah. Yeah, I mean, with Unreal, I always tell people, I love Unreal. Obviously, this is
yeah,
running in Unreal. All my shows are in Unreal. There's two things that I tell people. One is, when you go to learn Unreal, don't try to learn all of Unreal. Go to Unreal with a goal. Is my goal to render? Is my goal to make a real-time patch? Like, don't try to focus on all of it. Like, focus on building materials, focus on lighting, focus on staging, focus on sequence, keyframing. Okay, you got that down. That's interesting to you. Okay, now move into blueprinting. Oh, you don't care about rendering? Don't care about rendering. Don't learn sequencing. Don't learn keyframing. Just focus on lighting, materials, movement, figure out all that kind of stuff, because it's such a vast program that you can really get lost. And I've been using Unreal now for almost 7 years, and I could tell you that the first 2 years, especially 7 years ago, very little documentation. Unreal 4 was I mean, it still was great, but it
trust
was
me.
definitely not as good as it
Yeah,
is
I
now.
started on 4 point. Technically, I started on 4 when it first started out. I
Yeah,
remember when people are like, whenever someone goes, "Oh, you're using Unreal Engine 5," I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not jumping back to 4.27 or
yeah,
6
of
or anything like
course
that."
not.
I think
But
the thing I
yeah,
tell people is, with Unreal, it's kind of the same thing I kind of treat every single program with. Um, it's You've heard the saying like the 1,000 hours, the 10,000 hours
yes,
rule,
10,000
where it's
hours. Yeah.
um, I always think of it kind of like and this is kind of how I treat Unreal. So anyone that doesn't know the concept, to be a master of something, you need to spend 10,000 hours in it, and not just passively, like actively using, actively researching, actively utilizing and learning. I always view it this way: by the time you hit that 10,000 hour mark, that gives you the appreciation of what the program can do, to
Right.
realize you've barely scratched the surface.
Yes, yes, yes. That's Einstein's favorite, famous quote is like, you know, to be a scientist is to know that we don't know anything about stuff. That's butchering it, but
Yes.
the idea is the more you know,
Yeah.
the more you realize that you don't know anything.
Yes.
100%.
As someone
Just
that
to
reads a lot of scientific, I read a lot of scientific documents
obviously,
nowadays.
obviously, we can
Yeah.
tell you're very science
Yeah,
oriented.
I'm studying fields of magnetism now, which when I tell
Nice,
people about that, they're like, "That's wild." And I point out ferrofluid to move it, you gotta know magnets, and
for
magnets are
sure.
weird. So
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can't wait to talk to you about where you are currently are at right now. Just one more thing about Unreal
sure.
that I wanted to just finish that thought is, you know, the back then it was very difficult to pick it up. Now it's so much more easier to pick it up, and there's so much more information out there,
Yep.
and the tools that are out there are super powerful. You know, don't look at Unreal as a generative engine, as a generative tool. It's not Touch Designer. It's
Correct. I'm
not, you
also
know,
you're gonna see me reach off screen. It's because I'm changing out a battery of a camera that just died, by
that's
the
fine.
way.
That's fine. That's fine. You know, and one of the course that I've been teaching now a few times in person, I'm probably going to do it online at some point, is kind of how to marry Unreal and Touch Designer, because they both have strengths and they both have weaknesses. And the real like, you know, the real thing that I think that you probably agree with me, but like what we've learned over the years is like, this program has this strength, this program has this weakness. How do I use them both?
Right.
And that's really where
Which
you're
is
going to
part of the
excel.
Well, that's part of the reason when I was mentioning before, one of the biggest issues is when people jump into Unreal with no understanding of any other
Right.
3D program.
Right.
Unreal isn't meant for modeling. Unreal isn't
No.
meant for texture mapping, UV mapping. That's where understanding other programs that
Yeah.
are meant for that.
Yeah.
Cinema 4D, Blender, ZBrush, any of those programs is. I feel like every time that
I only
happens, I feel like
I
it's
only
like
have
the word of the day.
I only have those two. I mean, I have a whole bunch of other things, but we haven't done them yet. Those are the
Okay.
two.
But I think that one of the things that really helps people, because I got into 3D because when I first started doing, After Effects and everything, I realized I was spending more time trying to find perfect footage, perfect like videos and stock footage of stuff that I wanted to edit. And then once I was like, I'm tired of that. Why don't I just create it? That's where
Yeah.
I got into 3D.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's a really
I
good
have baked
anecdote.
many laptops. I baked many laptops just rendering out scenes as a kid, but that's kind of a starting point.
So, last thing I wanted to mention on the Unreal thing, and then let's definitely move to the physical stuff, is the tools is mentioned. I'm working now on two plugins. One is kind of not really oriented towards VJs. It's kind of global, but the Forces plugin. And
Yep.
I've pinned on my
Use
Facebook
it.
and
Love
on my
it, by the way.
Instagram. Thank you. And then the new one that I'm working on now is a scene switcher. So kind of like, you know, I think where a lot of people struggle with Unreal to use it in live is like, how do I unload and load levels? How do I make that not just like pop in and out? So I've been working on a plugin now that is very easy to use and gives you the ability to kind of like fade or even dissolve or any
Oh,
effect you want, really,
insane.
a whole level
Yeah,
in and out. So
that's
I'm
insane
trying to,
because right
yeah, I'm really
now,
excited about it.
someone that okay, cool. Right now,
I'll
someone
share it
that
with you soon.
does, I create some of the assets I've been creating recently is creating it where you could technically and I'm creating it as a package. So all controlled through Resolume and OSC. You can have a drop down menu of like, let's say if you're doing a show of 4 different DJs, you're on tour with them. You have all their logos. You've already made them 3D. You can import them all into a blueprint, and then it's a drop down menu that lets you change them. Another drop
Nice.
down menu that lets you change the
Amazing.
material,
Hell yeah.
and then lights, sub levels, everything like that. Because sub levels is how I do a lot of the
Yep.
a lot
Level
of
streaming.
swapping,
Level streaming, it's
level
called.
streaming.
Yep.
But the issue is there's no blend. It is
Yes.
a
No,
hard
it's on and
cut.
off.
Um, and also, depending on your system, it could be taxing because realistically, the
For
way
sure.
I run my scenes are when the level starts, it has to load everything. That way,
Of
you're not
course.
getting any kind of like delay. and when you
hiccup.
swap one, it just turns the opacity off of one and turns it on for another.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
which is kind of a janky way to do it, I admit, but it
No,
works
I
for
mean
what it does.
it works for what it does. I mean, what I've had to do in my shows is like every one of my objects, all of their materials have a function to like dissolve, but it's like
Yeah.
such an annoying process, and it's expensive because it's like each shader call. And then sometimes I don't do that. I'll do like a scale, so I'll find all my objects and scale them down before it turns off the thing. So this plugin is supposed to kind of like obfuscate that and make it like very, very, very simple. You don't have to change anything. It literally just finds
I,
all the streaming levels, and then it's like an animation button. I'll show it to you some other time. I'm still working out the kinks. But okay, so moving out of
I'll beta
Unreal,
test it.
yeah, I can't wait. Unreal is awesome. We love Unreal. But what about Real without the un?
Like that was a very smooth transition. Love that. If I was ready for another like flag of logos to pop up,
Yeah, I need one.
um,
I don't have one. I have well, I won't even press them because they're not really relevant.
you should
But
have one
yes,
for Unreal, right?
I need one for
Um,
Unreal for sure.
so I can kind of explain my workflow of what got
Bef-
me into kind of
yes.
focusing more into like realistic stuff.
So for your
Uh,
set, we're gonna definitely dive down deep into like how it all works and what's going on. I'd love to hear what was the inspiration to kind of get into this, and like what is so drawing to you about it, because it's so clear that you're so, and I mean this in like with respect, that you're so obsessed with it in a good way. Like what about it is kind of like driving that? How did you get into it? Why are you so obsessed with it?
so a while back, I was working on, I was using Touch Designer. Wait, okay, got ready for it. I was using Touch Designer to create, there it is, a animation, simulation of liquid and oils, and
Mm,
I was literally fighting
cool.
with myself to try to get as realistic of an oil simulation as possible.
Mm, mm-hmm.
After a while, I remember sitting there one night and just going, "Wait, I have a camera. I can just record actual oil." And
I love it.
doing setting up a macro lens, a couple of lights, and then immediately kind of falling in love with it. Before that, I was working on a lot of space. If you actually look at a lot of my profile, I have a lot of space animations on there. That's partly because I was really into making realistic planets and realistic
Uh-huh.
spacescapes. Something I still
Nice.
love. I want to eventually work on a series where it's featuring both 3D animations of realistic planets and cuts of similar macro and micro things. And I want to call it the macro versus micro to show how similar um, macro, really small things and really big, gigantic things such as space are. It's fascinating. Like so, for example, creating backgrounds that look like galaxies, literally just have simple like glitter and paint droplets.
Right.
Is one of my more like fascinating things. Um, it's such a cool moment of seeing how fluid and how like different chemicals just react with each other, and being able to create very cinematic looks just from that. Yeah, sorry.
You're good.
I think one of the things that I try to tell people is, as an artist, you should always be looking to change your medium. You should always be
Mm,
looking. You should have a level of wonder.
mm,
And when I started doing a lot of this, it kind of sparked that feeling. It sparked
mm,
that feeling of just discovery and reimagination. And at first, I was just doing it just for fun. At first, I was
mm.
like, I just want to see how this stuff looks. And now I have a lab, I have lab coat and everything. I have a lot of different stuff I've made. And there's never a moment where I step foot in here that I know what I'm going to make. I know exactly how it's going to look.
I love
And
that.
it, yeah, it gives kind of the feeling of just like, what's the word I'm looking for? Nuance. Like new
Mm,
kind of feeling, you know?
love that. Hell yeah.
Like
Um,
so many times I've had conversations with people where someone will just mention a chemical reaction and my brain will light up. And I'm like, wait, I need to figure out how to do that.
So so it's like it's almost like you're fascinated by the physicality of it, the generative like the same things that I think people are excited about generative art or like real-time art, you're kind of finding within the physical space. um i guess I guess my question is, do you feel limited? Do you feel like there's a bar of entry, like the learning curve? Like what is, like not necessarily negatives, but like give me like a little bit more of like the juxtaposition of of falling into this kind of like deep rabbit hole of liquid light.
Sure. There is, of course, some limitations. Like I said, when it's really hard to art direct specifically, because with art direction, you can have someone saying, "I want exactly this type of like movement and synchronicity," and really hard to do that. You have to kind of like experiment and figure out ways to make things move and ripple. Realistically, I use ferrofluid a lot to do that because ferrofluid, for anyone that doesn't know, is a very, and this is why I'm wearing gloves. It's a magnetic fluid that when you introduce a magnet to it, it moves around. The only issue is it's very messy and smells like iron all the time because it's ionized iron. Um, but you can use it and mix it with other different fluids to get really cool movements. Um, as far as like learning, realistically, the only thing that limits you in this field is not field, but like style is questioning and learning it because
Mm,
there's a lot of stuff that I don't know or
mm,
simply just because I haven't tried it. There are many, like, as far as chemical reactions and cool different things. Like,
mm-hmm.
here's one. Like, this one is, I don't know if you're going to be able to see it on that camera,
Yeah, I
but
could
this
see.
one is a little gift vial that I made for people. So this one's glitter, a few oils. You can see at the
Oh, cool.
bottom there's that layered glitter, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Shake
when I
it.
shake
Oh,
it
nice.
turns
I
it
love it.
brown, and you'll
Right.
see like if you shine
So
light to
cool.
it, you'll see all these really cool little
Patterns.
like movements of flows and
So
patterns.
cool.
I got the idea from that from a page where they make tumblers for
Tumblers.
like stay-at-home moms make tumblers. So it's so many different things that you can learn just from looking and trying new things, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of like
I'm.
the cool.
I will say
Yeah, sorry.
there is some limitation because I'm probably on like some FBI watch list for some of the stuff I've Googled. Like one animation idea, I say animation, but cinematic idea I had
Mhm.
was I want to be able to do custom molds of like for presses of like
Mm.
people's logos because I think it'd
Mhm.
be really cool to make them out of like baking soda and show them like dissolving.
Totally.
Um,
Super cool.
yeah, custom presses are highly illegal to buy for,
Really
uh,
interesting.
yeah, which
Oh, for
kind of
like
makes sense because,
pills and drugs and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, yeah. Interesting.
which kind of makes sense. Didn't realize that. Another one is I'm looking at how to utilize gasoline inside of vacuums to
Mm.
create these kind of like
A
very
bomb.
warpy, well, nebulous. Yeah, that's another reason I'm on lists at this point because I'm looking at it to create like a nebulous kind of look, but
Right.
also yes, bombs.
You just reminded me. I like in LPM. This is like 2000 and I don't know, like 15 or something. This conference that I was talking about before, where I met like a lot of users. There was a projection mapping contest that I took part in. I did not do very well because I'm not very competitive, but there was a projection map. One of the people that were in the contest, they basically took the projection mapping facade that we were doing, 3D printed it in miniature, and then 3D
Mhm.
printed it like a wax one, a plastic one, and then like took high quality macro photography of like water falling down this little model, of like fire erupting on this little model,
Yeah, yeah.
and they used that as the projection mapping content. I was like, could not even understand like how simplistic but effective it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was so cool.
One of the ones that we mentioned I'm working coming up is Burning Man with Playa Alchemist.
Yes.
I showed you this recently. So one of the things I ordered and kind of like shaped out was because I'm doing a giant pyramid sized dishes to be able to record and map different fluids and liquids in that exact shape. Because yeah, I could record it in a square, for example, in a square
Right.
petri
Crop it.
dish, but then those edges are getting chopped off versus it
Totally.
hitting into the
Of
edges,
course.
which is a
Very important.
completely different motion.
For sure.
I do cymatics as well, where cymatics is the visualization of sound and bass frequency to, if you look at my profile, it should be like a purple circular one. Um, but there it is. So that one's using a small circular petri dish. In fact,
Mhm.
it's one of these guys. So really not that big.
Super cool. You know what
Yeah.
I want to see with
Um,
cymatics? I want to see you record this at super slow mo at like, like 500 FPS, and then like, because it's so. I get why it's so fast because it's like the frequency of the bass is coming in and out and pushing it, but it's
well,
almost like
this
there's
is
so much
also
detail. I'm just missing that detail.
yes. So the difference is, so this actual video
Yeah.
is the song itself. So I
Mm-hmm.
recorded the song playing through subs and then edited it. It's not really speed ramped because my camera does record at 120 frames per second.
Okay.
I took that and then timed it to make sure it matches beats, everything like that.
Right.
Cymatics is fascinating.
So crazy.
I currently have been instead working on a pack where it's different frequencies just oscillating,
Mm.
and it's the shapes coming on and off. So that
Mm.
way,
Interesting.
VJs are then able to match those to bass
Right.
frequencies to
Right. Like a
whatever they
pack.
want.
Smart.
Yeah,
Super
and
smart.
it's pretty simple. Um, and not to mention, it makes it so that way you could fit it to any stage. I've recorded it in like 16 by 9, 1 by 1, a
So
couple of
cool.
circular ones.
Love it.
Yeah. As someone that makes packs for VJs as a VJ, I try to always think of the end usage of it versus does this look cool right now or will it look cool depending on how people use it.
Totally. Totally. Okay, well, before we get into your set here, I have just two things that I wanted to talk to you about. And I'm going to
Sure.
put them into one because we are a little bit short of time. But so one was
Sure.
kind of as a person who has been in this industry for a long time, you've gotten to work, and you mentioned it yourself, you've gotten to work in both the kind of creative artist kind of worlds and also the commercial corporate worlds.
Hmm.
Just like kind of give us a little bit about that, and then maybe tie it into because when we first met, you came to LA to look for a job, and
Yeah.
you're not in LA anymore. So like, give us a little bit about kind of those two things, how they kind of interact, and the job search aspect for anybody on the same journey.
Sure. When I first started designing, I have a whole background of focusing more into not just corporate, but the more B2B advertising world. I've worked in advertising for a very long time. Um, and understanding that has made it so that way I have more structure when working with DJs, with artists, with other VJs. Anyone that knows me knows my file structure is insane, and it's because I've had to work with other teams where someone 3 years after the fact may have to redo and open a file. So you want to make sure files always are structured right. Um, a lot of times with VJs, especially making content, you have a lot of people that they don't have that B2B business to business experience.
Right.
So it can be a little I don't want to say unprofessional, but a little
Mm,
unorganized in how to be
mm,
able to set up things.
right.
Since I went from that into the music world, there was a difference where I was like, okay, this is how I run things. This is the things I've learned. It makes it easier. After my last full time job closed down, I had decided to kind of I don't want to say a hiatus, but kind of take a focus break onto more of the music world, the music industry,
Mm,
VJing, content creation for stage production. and that was a couple of years ago, and it's been my full time since. Every now and then, I still freelance to different corporations. I'm still always looking for it full time, but it's one of those things where I always tell people you should always be freelancing, you should always be creating,
Mm,
because you never know when something will go down.
yeah.
But even when I was working full time, I was still freelancing, barely getting any sleep, but making sure things got done. You know?
Yeah, I mean that's just kind of that's the life, right? That's the life of a freelancer. You kind of have to just it's like a little bit of a grind, and then you're like, okay, I just made a bunch of money, and now I can just chill for a little bit, and then it's like, well, you can, but you kind of have to keep on grinding, otherwise you're gonna have a hard time supporting
There's a
yourself.
certain aspect too that like there's a level of gratification. Like I tell
Mm,
people that
interesting.
I remember when I first when I met one of my supervisors at my old full time position. He asked me what my 5 year plan was, and I said I just want to make cool stuff. And to this day, that's the idea. I just want to constantly feel like I have a mode of expression and just making things that just inspire me and make me happy, you know?
Beautiful. Yeah, I mean, why not, right? That's kind of
Yeah.
if you can do that your whole life without having to be tied down to something, I think it's really powerful. Um, and it's kind of like the whole job thing is like a very big question. I think a lot of people have, especially when you're kind of like a starting artist and you're being
Hmm.
offered all these freelance jobs. Okay, well, I can do this, but then it's difficult when there's no work. It's difficult when there is, it's difficult to manage your funds when it's like, not a consistent, solid thing. But then the offside of that is if you're in a full-time job and it's not like a performance-based job, you actually have to go into an office every day, then you might lose an opportunity to go do something that you wanted to do with art, or you might lose the opportunity to do something else. But the flip side is now you have more financial security, so maybe you have your
Yes.
weekends are much more available for you. So,
It is a balance, I will say, because when I was working full time, there was, of course, different positions, like different gigs that I couldn't get because I was too busy. I couldn't turn around and be like, oh, I'm gonna be gone for Burning Man for like 2 3 weeks at a time when I had a corporate gig. Nowadays, my schedule. Whenever people ask me, what my calendar looks like, what my time looks like, I always say it's flexible if it pays well and if it looks good.
right.
So it's one of those things where yes, you have to be able to be really good with time management. You have to be able to be really good with asking yourself, is this gig worth it?
Yeah.
Because when you first start out, you're gonna get a lot of freelance like gigs as a VJ that
Yeah.
some of them just don't pay well. Some of them are just not worth your time. And
Yeah.
you have to start out realizing, is this worth my time now? Is it worth my time later? And
Yeah.
then you have to start being able to give yourself kind of a gate entry point, you know? Before
100%.
I was VJing, as I've mentioned before, I've been freelancing since I was like a kid. So I've dealt with every terrible client that could possibly exist. So there's a lot of times where get emails, I get people reach out, and one of my rule of thumbs is if you come up to me at a show and you're like, hey, I want to hire you to do this and this, I'm like, cool, email me. If they can't even email you, don't
They're
take the
not worth your
project.
time. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They are not worth your time because that
It's
shows
a good
that
one.
you also are a business owner. You're also a
Yeah,
creative. You're a professional, and that's something
totally.
you like. A lot of younger BJs don't understand, and you have
Mm,
to have that boundary. If not,
boundary.
your
Yeah,
business will get walked all over. If you don't,
totally.
one of my favorite sayings is, "You have to stand for something, or you stand for nothing."
Nice, nice. Yeah, it's super true, and it's like it's the same thing with like demanding like travel and board and food, because it's like when you
Hmm.
demand those things, your client is looking at you and like, oh, this guy's professional. It's not the opposite of
Hmm.
like, oh, this guy's asking too much. No, it's like this guy's a professional. He knows what to ask for, or she. So it's like I think that that's something that people don't always remember is, you know, the more you put those boundaries, the more you put those requirements, you might lose a job or two, but those jobs that you lost are not worth your time or what you value yourself. Once you say like, hey, I
In
want
those
this, I want this, I want
situations,
this, you're basically saying
Those
this is
situations,
my.
I usually
Yeah,
tell
sorry.
people, be willing to negotiate. If
Yeah,
you have to ask yourself at your negotiation points, what is your hard cutoffs? What are your soft points where you're willing to kind of bend? Because that person on the other end of the negotiation table is also another professional, is also
yeah,
trying to get. There's a balance where it's their goal is to get you at the least amount of cost. Your goal is to work it at the most amount of cost. So you have to find kind of like an in between point where both of you are happy.
totally, totally. Okay, so we're gonna go into your set now.
Okay, cool. So right now, what I'm working on is this camera is a Z cam with a 100 millimeter macro lens. Realistically, this camera could be a little bit overkill for what people are trying to do. I started off with DSLR, and just any type of macro lens can work. Macro lenses are different than your traditional lens. 'Cause your traditional lens can do pretty much. Let me look at the camera. Your traditional lens has what's called a minimal distance of focus. Macro lenses have a lot smaller minimal distance of focus. So you can put something that's a 1-to-1 right in front of it, and it's able to see it. If you want to switch over, I can kind of explain it from
Sure,
this view.
for sure.
So this is a macro lens. What you're seeing right now is this is a petri dish that has a couple of glitters that's dried out to give like a really cool texture. To what I like doing, and you're gonna see it from this guy, this is a ring light. So a lot of people when they start off a ring light, they start off with just your basic white. Some ring lights can do different colors, different
Nice.
modes. So with this one, what I like doing is some quick lights like that, some
Super cool.
RGB lights. The
I love
reason
the.
that you want to start doing
Yeah, so
some,
nice.
it's kind of the art of taking different things and making it cooler, adding more motion. So I'm gonna turn off this light so that way you're not getting all the white as well. There we go.
Nice.
So when I do this, I have what's called this is called I think it's called a lazy Susan. I just refer to it as a spinning platform they use to spin little like figurines. I use it to create like motion into like different movements. So this one is a let's do a fun one. Let's do some different looks. Keep in
Cool.
mind the colors on this may be a little muted because right now when I shoot them in log. Log, if anyone that's never done video, never heard of it, log pretty much means like all your colors are muted, so that
Mm-hmm.
way you get more of like a easier editable base. I'm gonna actually switch this over from log into Rec 709, which is kind of you'll see it kind of jump off and on real quick. There we go. So it's about to boot back up. Rec 709 is more of
Oh wow.
your standard color form. There we go. So now
Nice.
you're seeing a lot more of the colors coming in, a lot more of the reflections and everything. That's where this is one of my favorite like petri dishes. Um, Another one that I like using is this one. This one is different
Ooh,
glitters.
look at that. Super
You now see
psychedelic.
why I'm wearing gloves. Yeah, these are different glitters in black ink and ferrofluid. I mentioned ferrofluid earlier. I think that a lot of people here probably have never seen it, so I'm gonna do just like a quick moment with just ferrofluid to kind of explain what it can do. So what I do for ferrofluid is, and this is something that took a lot of trial and error. It's one thing that I always say is one of the beauties of this kind of like artwork. It is very much trial and error, very much just trying new things and seeing what looks cool. Um, so with ferrofluid, you run into an issue where you want a magnet, but you don't want it to get on the magnet. And ferrofluid moves quickly. So I have this little platform that lets me put a magnet underneath it. So in this box, I have ferrofluid. I'm going to use. So ferrofluid, to anyone that's never used it, I definitely recommend gloves because once it gets in your hands, it takes a while to clean off, and your
Really?
hands will smell like it for like a day. Yeah.
No way.
Um,
Interesting.
yeah. You want to be careful. So let's do a petri dish. I have. It's hard to tell from this angle, but I have so many petri dishes, so many like different things. So let's do a petri dish. Throw a little bit of oil in there. I like using oils just because it gives a little bit more separation and movement, if that makes sense. Um, so I have like everything from like literally baby oil, mineral oils. So this is oil thinner, which makes it so that way you're able to like move things a little bit easier. Um, this is Here's some baby oil. I also like using it because the smell of it kind of balances out the ferrofluid, to be honest. I know there's not smell-o-vision in here, so you guys aren't understanding it as much. Let's move it to the center.
Just out of
I also,
just out of interest quickly, is the colors that we're seeing, there's like no effects on it? This is just like purely out of the camera?
this is all just out of camera. You can even
So
see
crazy.
the camera. The
Yeah, the
camera's
camera
like this
options.
is a live feed of the camera. Yeah.
It's so crazy
So
how the colors are so psychedelic. I guess it's just like, yeah.
so
Wow.
this is where it gets fun. So ferrofluid works with like different magnets. This is a little magnetic wand that people use to be able to, let's say if you're working on a car or something, and you have a magnet fall, yeah, like a screw fall, you could stick this down to get it. Um, with ferrofluid, magnets are the worst sometimes. Magnets are the worst sometimes, guys. With ferrofluid, you want to use strong magnets to get really cool looks out of it. So I
Hmm.
use what's called neodymium magnets. They are the strongest magnets, like natural magnets. Um, Next to, of course, once you start getting into electromagnets. Um, so to show a quick example of what this looks like, I'm going to take this wand, stick a couple of magnets on it, some strong ones, and all I'm going to do is take this and put it underneath. You see that motion, that pulsing
Wow.
that's happening?
That's for the
That's
magnet.
because, yeah. And this is also the reason that I thinned it was so that way I can get different kind of like a little bit smoother of a look versus like when I put it directly on ferrofluid, it just sits there. So this is a cool way to create some kind of quick, soft movement. You can also use more people are used to seeing ferrofluid underneath just a normal ring light. So like if I do just white, you'll see kind of like the halo hit of it. See? I will warn you, ferrofluid moves really quickly. So like as if you look at the edge of here when I stick this magnet near it, it's kind of already pulsing. Let me put it, I think it's here. There we go. It's hard to see from this angle, but it's already crawling up the side of the petri dish.
Damn.
You want to be really careful with ferrofluid because it will crawl out and get literally everywhere. There we go. It jumped out and already got onto this magnet, which is going to take me like 20 minutes to clean off later.
Really? It's that crazy?
Yeah, it's
That's
like you could
wild.
see it on my hand. It smells already. um, yeah, so like if I show you the magnet that I just cleaned, it's like layers of it already on here. I was hoping not to get it on here, but it's fine. I kind of expect this with ferrofluid every time I use it. Cool thing about ferrofluid is it doesn't really mix with like other fluids because it is like a ionized fluid. Because of that, you're able to do. Let's put back on some RGB. You're able to do some really cool looks out of it. So like, if you really want to get some cool looks, all you gotta do is mix ferrofluid with other stuff. So like, let's put on some regular lights so that way I can kind of explain it better. Um, let's see. Let's throw some glitter in it. So I use a lot of different glitters. Let's do some white glitter, some gold glitter, some red glitter, just whatever. So this is white glitter. It's also silver. And then these are some more silver ones. I'm just free, as you can tell. I'm just kind of shooting
You,
it, just seeing
this
what I
is great.
like.
I love it.
Yeah. Um, and then let's introduce a better light for this. So like, have to go through a couple light settings. So like this one for example. Um, do it so that way it is moving around. So now you're getting a lot of these little particles of like uh paint of the glitter moving around. You can also see it as a way to kind of like captivate the ferrofluid. So that's where I was talking about where you use ferrofluid as a way to move things.
Sick.
Um,
So
that
sick.
is just one of them.
It's
You
like
can also
viscous.
use,
It's like viscous, but it's like
yeah,
liquidy. It's almost like I don't know. It kind of like has some sort of motion, right? Right now it's moving, right? Is that just like from the motion of your what you left, or is there a magnet there?
the magnet. So right now it's just moving. So
Just
like
moving.
this is some of my more fun stuff to do where combining it with different like paints, you can
Yeah.
get really cool effects. So like I have a whole bunch of paints, lots of
Right.
like different
Right. Right.
ones.
Right.
These ones are these ones are alcohol-based paints. With alcohol-based paints, alcohol when it hits other fluids like oil, it doesn't directly combine. It kind of like I'm trying to move this up so that way it's more in focus. Kind of creates these really cool macro and micro motions. See what I mean? So you're
Interesting.
able to then combine those and move.
Right.
That's funny. I centered it and then moved it off frame again. You're able
So
to
cool.
combine them and move them around using the ferrofluid. So like it's hard to explain this without explaining it to music, but this is a really cool way of creating really slight natural movements and then being able to pop them to music. Um, let's see. So another one that I like doing is I like taking this one's kind of would take me a second to set up, but I use what's called extension tubes. When I use an extension tube, I actually bring it closer. By using extension tube, I didn't want to use it at first because I want to also show what you're looking at, you know, so that way it seems more realistic versus it being so zoomed in. Um, when it's zoomed in more, you're able to see these little really cool motions of like
Wow.
sub movement, you know. So like these ones, you could see how they're kind of popping and forming by themselves. Another one is I like doing is I think this is oil. I gotta do the smell check sometimes. Um, is vodka. Keep in mind, I am sober, and I this bottle is like almost halfway gone from just me pouring it in stuff. So adding vodka into things, you're able to do a lot more bigger coagulation of like
Does it like
movement.
it just breaks down the liquid in a way?
It doesn't form with alcohol-based inks, so you're able to get these
Okay.
really
Okay.
cool
Okay.
like movements
Interesting.
out of it.
I
Um,
see.
yeah, even like let's put here's a round, big old round like neodymium magnet. I'm just gonna put it directly underneath the ferrofluid so that way you guys can see without me having to keep moving it around and everything what it does. Um, so like there we go. So you see how it's like looks almost like a giant eyeball because of it. You're able to get really cool looks out of that. And then when you take it away, of course, you get all your glitters and everything that's kind of moving around from it. So ferrofluid is, whew, you gotta be careful with magnets because I just almost lost a finger just now. Um, ferrofluid can do a lot of really cool looks just from small movements. So you see how there's chunks kind of forming. That's from the paint and the alcohol mixing. This is just like one small example of some of the stuff I really like doing. Um, you can also use different sizes of glitter. With different sizes of glitter, you're also able to create more texture. So, like this one that I did earlier, this one is like three different types of glitter, like different sizes. Um, so this one, same thing. You're able to move it around. Ooh, Also, keep in mind, ferrofluid loses viscosity, like, if you leave it out for too long. This one's kind of old. You're able to move it around. One thing that I like doing with these ones is actually, because this one's more black ink. I think I just got ferrofluid on my foot. Is using one of these guys. So you remember how I said the spinning petri dish, spinning platform? Just letting it sit and mixing it that way. Using, where are they? A bunch of them somewhere. There we go. Using these guys. These are little, I forgot what they're called. They're, you can use them to create quick motions of just movement like this. Create bubbles, things like that too. Which bubbles is another fascinating thing that I really like messing around with. Bubbles are actually pretty easy. All you're really doing is taking soap, glycerin, and whatever else to make different textures of bubbles. So as I'm going, do you have any questions? I'm just kind of
No, this is
spitballing if you
amazing.
can't tell.
No, this is awesome. I'm loving this so much. It's so pretty.
Thanks. You can also add more lights into it. So I have some lights that do different lights, so different colors as well. So if I turn off this light, you'll see now I have another light that's now two different colors. I just have them rotating at different like kind of speeds. So I'm able to get these really cool multicolored shots and just have them go kind of like to it. Some really cool ones I want to show are actually these guys. So these guys are different crystals I've grown from different mixtures. Um, so this one's one of my favorite new ones. This one is um, vodka mixed with beta alanine, which is kind of like a key ingredient in like pre-workout. When you saturate them, it dries out, creates a crystallization of it, which I think is really, really fascinating. Another one is this one, which is Epsom salts with Epsom salt and water, which when it dries out creates almost like this chunkier one. And when you put it on like a thinner platform, you're able to also get these ones. So these are all just different crystals that I've like kind of grown just from mixing things and seeing what sticks.
Crystals. Could we
Yeah.
see just a solid color for a second?
Sure.
To see.
Let's do this, and then there we go. So this is just white, and you can see the crystals a lot more.
Yeah.
So like I said, this is more of a flat one. This one is my favorite one, just from how it like kind of branched out, you know. I do want to do time lapse videos of some of them. I've done time lapse videos of them underneath a microscope, which is really fascinating. Which, speaking of, if you want, I could switch over to kind of some more of the microscopic stuff.
Sure. Yeah, let's switch over to microscopic stuff.
I have
sure.
a lot of stuff, so I also don't want to, keep up too much time, you know?
No, you're good. We're time-wise, we're doing totally okay. I'll definitely let you know if we're running. So
perfect.
I'll switch the camera up.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
And maybe you want to show us a little bit of your desk just to see what's kind of happening here?
Sure. If you want, this is my desk right now. So you can see from the viewpoint of what I showed you guys how small this really is. So to give a frame of reference to anyone that
saying.
I get that joke a lot, which is hilarious. Yeah, everything I've shown you guys is very small. Like, so I've done some stuff where it's like the size of a dime. And like whenever I go to different events and I try to set up, they're like, how much of a footprint do you need? And I'm like, really not that much. You can do a lot of this in a very small space. My lab is a little bit more chaotic than other people's. But for the most part, this is pretty much just putting things on a small platform and then just pouring it and seeing what works. And then, of course, like I said, the microscope's even more smaller. If you've never seen a microscope before, it is, let's see, I'm trying to move this guy. Yeah, microscopes tiny. They're not big at all. So you can do a lot of this on the go in a in a small space. It's
Mhm.
just having some thought beforehand of what you're gonna bring and making it so that way every space is purposeful.
Mhm.
I use a lot of different lights, but my lights are more based off of lab lights, so I'm
Mm.
able to do them in a really small space.
Mm.
I find my coffee. There we go. The only time where stuff takes a little bit more space is when I do cymatic stuff because I have a big speaker for that. But
Uh-huh.
everything else you can do pretty small.
Sick. Sick. Okay, so let's see the close-up stuff.
Of the microscope, sure. So I'm gonna move my mic over so that way I could take a step over real quick. So this, believe it or not, is glitter on a microscope. Um,
Really?
so
Wow.
yeah, that's just different glitters. Right now I have a Marshall CV344 hooked up, which is anyone that's used Marshall cameras before, you know that it's a small deck cam. They take C mount lenses, so you can get a C mount adapter that lets you attach it to a microscope. So I use what's called a tri-ocular microscope, where it has three like tubes to look through. So I have the
Mm-hmm.
two that I can look at. In fact, I could move my camera to show like my viewpoint.
Yeah, sure.
Um, sure. Let's see. Let's do it this way. Let's focus that, and then let's take this and move it up, so that way I'm getting better light. There we go.
Nice.
Yeah. So this is a triocular microscope. So a biocular is just these two. The
Mm-hmm.
triocular part is this. So this is an extension tube. You remember how I mentioned that all cameras have a minimal range of focus?
Mm-hmm.
Um, this lets me adjust that. So
Oh,
I
interesting.
right now I have this camera just set up for stream purposes, but the camera that you guys were just looking at, namely my Z cam, I also when I'm shooting content, I could use my Z cam, so I'm able to get 6K footage out of it. I'm gonna also take off these gloves before I get paint on everything. Um, I will warrant to anyone getting into this, gloves. Trust me, they are so important. Um, I go through a lot of these, and they're like $8 for a box of 100 of them. Um, but so I'm gonna bring this microscope a little bit forward. So if you want to switch over to the stream, I can show you a little bit of what I'm looking at.
Yes.
Sure. There we go. So right now, what you're seeing is different crystals at different viscosities.
Mm-hmm.
Not different viscosity, but different sizes.
Okay.
Just dried out. Like
Mm-hmm.
I put them in some fluid, let it sit, and created this like thin layer to put together. So what you're seeing right now, like I said, is just the crystals themselves.
Oh.
If I focus it, so right now it's out of focus. Focusing a microscope is the easiest thing. It is. There we go. So that's why
It's
you're
easy.
seeing some
It's
crystals.
easy to focus a
Yes,
microphone. A thing.
microscope. Yes, it's
Microscope.
literally just like two dials.
Really
Um,
interesting.
the only thing that you have to worry about, depending on your microscope, is if it doesn't have, if it drifts sometimes.
Uh huh.
So what I'm doing right now, focusing it, and then you have on my microscope, I have Amscope T340B, which is also a
Mm-hmm.
dark field lens, which I'll also get into as well.
Okay.
What that means is I'm trying to move it closer to me. Like I said, my desk is a little mess. What that means is I could do what's called dark scopopathy, which is really cool.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this is you're seeing me move the platform to be able to get these really cool looks out of it.
So,
Um,
sorry. What are we looking at again?
yeah.
Glitter. It's just glitter and water.
If you want to move to my other camera and show that, I'll kind of just hold it up to the camera so you can see it.
Yeah. Uh huh. Oh
This is what
wow.
you're looking
It's
at.
just really. Wow. It's so
Yeah,
interesting.
this is just different types of glitter dried out on like a petri dish. In
So
fact,
crazy.
yeah, this was $2 at like Michael's, which is yeah. Um, when you buy glitter, you can buy it at different like levels of fineness.
Uh-huh.
I do like some levels of chunky glitter. That way, you're able to get these really cool kind of like small pieces. Um, the next one I want to do is soap.
Okay.
Let's see, I need to find my soap real quick.
That's what they all say.
Actually, here it is. I have some. This is just hand soap. So what I want to do is just some hand soap to showcase what you can do with bubbles and how bubbles are really cool.
Hmm.
Um, so I got petri dish, one of the straw tubes that I mentioned earlier, and just some basic hand soap. So I'm gonna
Killer.
take these, mix them. I might even add a little bit of color to it, just so that way you can see it a little bit better. I'm gonna take these and mix them live. So all I'm doing
Fuck yeah.
is let me switch. Yeah, that's the same feed.
I'll switch over for you.
Yeah.
Now we're back to the
So
view of the plate. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna add a little bit of color. So I'm gonna add a little bit of purple, just so that way. Purple's also one of my favorite ones, just because it's a little bit easier to color match. And
Oh,
I'm
I
just
kind of
gonna.
don't. I don't see what you're doing, but I mean, you're just telling us what you're doing, so you're
I'm
good.
prepping it. Yeah.
You're good.
So now you can see it underneath the microscope.
Yes. Damn.
Uh, Yeah, I'm trying to see. You can see all these motions of the bubbles moving really softly, and that is only at like a times 10. Let me switch my camera so I can see better. Um, there we go. So
Wow. Look at
that
that.
is bubbles.
So crazy.
Yeah,
This I
that's
feel like this is
just the
this
bubbles.
is like the funnest part of the whole thing, no?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
is the it's the time where you're just kind of playing around, see what you can get. So like, there we go. You can see this is just like a times 10. Which you don't really need that much to be able to do some really cool things. Um, Even at like, there we go. So this is a times 10. Um, this is just one of them. You know how I mentioned the crystals that I showed you guys before? This is the crystals. So I wanted to use this as kind of a way to pivot into dark field microscopy. So dark
Mm-hmm.
field microscopy, what it is there we go. So this is one of the crystal one I just showed you guys. Let's see. I'm trying to get a good focus point. It's there we go. So as you see right now, you're seeing the crystals kind of like backlit at like a certain angle, right? That's because I have a filter that angles light. What you can do is you can move it
Huh.
around, and then you're able to get these motions of if you look, light's moving around. Be able
Uh-huh.
to move the light around behind it. If you really want to get into some cool, interesting movements, you can add. I have other lights that I
So
can
this is
add
on
in front
the
of it.
I see, I see. Interesting.
Yeah. So switch back to the
Yeah.
microscope. I'm talking about the
Switch modes.
microscope.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So like you can see all these motions of lights. That's just me
That's
moving
just
lights above it and below it. Below it.
wow. So
You
cool.
can get a lot of really cool movements out of just playing around with lights. To be honest.
Yeah, yeah. Have you experimented at all with mirrors?
Um, yeah, actually, with mirrors, I want to do more capture of refractions through mirrors.
Right.
Refractions, if anyone doesn't know, refractions is what you're seeing at the edges of these crystals, where it's creating what's called halation and chromatic aberration. Chromatic
Mm-hmm.
aberration is an effect that um, VJs are probably used to called RGB split, where you're experiencing the RGB, the red, green, blue, separating at the edges of light. So like you're getting
Mm-hmm.
like a fringe. It's a real thing. So and halation is when light is shown. It's actually kind of warm. So you're seeing light kind of like dim, and it's like almost a red glow on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like playing around. I want to make crystals that have a little bit more color to them, because like the
Right.
crystals that I'm showing right now are just straight black and white,
Quartz.
but you
Just
can get a
is it
little.
just quartz crystals? Or it's not
These
even
are
quartz. It's just
no,
like just grown. You just petri dish crystals.
these are just the ones I grew that I was talking about
Yeah.
before.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the one that's like Epsom salts and water. Um, you can get a lot of really cool looks out of these by just simply layering them. So like
Mm-hmm.
let's say if I take that mixture of bubbles and water that I made earlier, I throw that on a petri dish, and then I put that petri dish on top of the other petri dish, you're going to see kind of like a balance of like a new pattern.
Mm-hmm.
So like see how it just turned red.
Wow.
Let me go this way. And now you're seeing kind of like both of them bleed together. Let me move this a little bit more. There we go. You're able to
So
get a
cool.
lot of really cool looks just from simply moving things around. Um, yeah, do you have any questions? I know I'm kind of spitballing and going quickly, so I just want to make
No.
sure
No.
I'm
No.
not
I.
going too quick.
No. No. You're not doing too quick. I think this is it's fascinating. I have lots of questions. I'm just trying to think about what the best direction is. But I kind of just I like watching you play. I got to tell you.
Yeah.
Um, would you want to like put on some music and just like play for a few
I've
minutes?
been listening to music this whole time, to be
Oh
honest.
hell yeah, hell yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
do you want to just like kind of free flow it? Maybe tell what you're doing, but kind of just
No
like show
need.
us.
Oh, sure. I was gonna say no need, but I could also explain just like my idea of when I'm working on things.
Yeah,
So like
please.
with bubbles, you get a lot of these really cool little motions of things. Let me see if I can find them. So one of my favorite ones is actually this one is
It's
baking
a little bit out of
soda.
focus, or is it just it's just maybe
It's
it's just
hard
a
for me to
stream.
focus because I'm looking at the stream. There we go.
Oh, there we go. Much better.
Yeah. So this is just bubbles at like an angle. Um,
Mm-hmm.
what I was looking for, and I think I have some upstairs, vinegar and baking soda.
Uh huh.
So vinegar and baking soda is like anyone that's ever done like an elementary school like volcano project knows what it
Right.
does. It fizzes up and pretty much creates a chemical reaction. I'll use those sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Let's add a little bit of glitter into this piece too, just to see what it looks like. So that's some glitter. That's a lot of glitter. Just add it to all the different bubbles and everything, which creates more. There we go.
Sick. It's so crazy, like the different, like so many different shapes coming out of it. It's just like so. Once you
It's
kind of see what it's
fascinating.
made from, it's like it's also a little bit kind of like, oh, that's whatever, But then you're like, wait a second, that oh whatever is just like so.
Fascinating.
Yeah, that's why I asked you about mirrors because I remember I don't know, like I don't know, a long time ago experimented with mirrors. You put like if you put two mirrors like close to each other and you get that endless mirror effect, but you leave a little
Hmm.
slit at the back of it and you put like a light there and you move the light, it looks like this crazy light show happening in the mirror.
Yeah,
And
you
it's like
create
this like
what's called an
simple small
infinity
thing,
mirror.
an infinity mirror, but you're kind of like yeah, it's just the amount of craziness that can happen from these small little things is just crazy. It's crazy.
That's part of why this is really fascinating to me. A lot of it is just experimenting and seeing how
Right.
things look and move and react that you would
Right.
never even think about.
Yeah.
It's since I've started this kind of journey of working on these things, some of the people that I've had conversations with that have been the most like not only knowledgeable about it without realizing it, but
Mhm.
also just happy to talk about it.
Mhm.
Cinematographers, because you talk about cameras a lot. You talk about ISO, you talk about like capture speed, you talk about a lot of the
Right.
technical side of cameras. Um, you chemists, people that have gone to school for biology and different chemistry have talked to me as just like fascinated because they've gone to shows and literally have said to me, I've never thought I would see something like this on a video wall.
Mm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's a lot of, I kind of mentioned this before, a lot of the stuff that I've learned is actually from people I never thought it would come from. Like, for example, seeing how certain liquids move, I learned from crafts, like craft
Mm.
moms instead. So
That's so
it's
funny.
one of the, yeah, it's one of those things where as long as you're willing to be receptive and learn and try new things, there's
Hmm.
like endless possibilities.
Mm. That's awesome.
Yeah. Um, let's see. I think I have one. Uh, I also use highlighter fluid, which highlighter fluid, all you need is a black light. And making highlighter fluid's the easiest thing. All you do is just add, let's see, you take kind of like a highlighter, you put it in water, and you let it dilute for
Mm.
like days. Um, I have a bunch of bottles full of it. Highlighter fluid creates like a really bright, vibrant green, and
Hmm.
then when you add, of course, when you add a highlight, black light to it, you can then create more greens out of it. So like right now, you're looking at highlighter fluid, some glitter,
So
and some
crazy.
bubbles. Realistically,
this
you're looking at
this whole
highlighter fluid and soap.
this whole segment is like, oh my god, whoa, wow, what the hell, that's cool. You know, it's like such a
Yeah.
funny, it's such a instant. You know, I'm also thinking is like, okay, so yeah, we're kind of like saying, oh, I don't want to render anymore. I don't want to wait for render times. Okay, yeah, I'll do like real time patches. I'll do real time visuals, and then it's like the next level is like, no, I'll do physical stuff where I just drop shit into a bowl and like don't have to wait. I don't have to make a node graph. I don't have to make
Yeah. I
logic.
tell people, I point out to people for me to record a lot of this stuff, like it takes me maybe like 20, 30 minutes to set up and get like a
Right.
good idea and like lighting setup. But
Yeah.
once I do that, I could record 10 to 20 minutes of like 6K content in like no time. And then it's just
Right.
video editing it after that, which I'd use Davinci, so
So
which takes me a lot less time.
speaking of video editing, would you like to switch over to the more digital aspect of this, or do you want to stay here? It's really up to you.
Up to you. How am I on time? Because I have to like switch
I
over
think
computers.
yeah, I think this is probably a good time to switch over. Maybe just wrap this up, and then we'll move over to the computer.
Okay. Okay, cool. I'll have to reopen the
That's
link
fine.
on my
That's fine. We have
desktop.
that's
Okay.
no problem. You want to wrap this
Okay, I'm
up
also
and
going.
then go there, or
Yeah,
should
yeah.
we just do a hard? We can do a hard cut too. I don't care.
I think like one of the ones I was gonna show is one more I was just gonna show real quick.
Yeah, please go
This
for it.
one. So these ones are. Can you switch to like my normal to like my
Yes.
desk cam? Thank you.
Yes.
So, well, yeah, you can switch to the desk cam show from there. So these are little crystals that I bought at Michael's, and then you can just. I think these are like $2 for a whole big container of them. I'm gonna throw some underneath a microscope just so that way you guys can see what it looks like. Because we were talking about like refraction and everything
Hmm.
earlier, right? Um, so let's try to get one really good one. Do.
Ooh, I already
There
see
we
it. I
go.
already see the reflection of it. Wow.
And that's coming off of the bubbles, which bubbles also create these really cool oily looks too, by the way. Uh, Bubbles, one of my, if you can't tell by now with how much I talk about them, it's one of my favorite things to record.
It's very fractally bubbles.
Yeah. Especially when you start getting more into like the lighting behind it. Like right now, I'm just moving two lights overhead, but if
Hmm.
I turn off those lights, right now you're seeing the light that's. Oh, it's timing on. There we go. So right now you're seeing the light behind it. So you're getting like these
Hmm.
really cool backlit like looks too.
Hmm.
That is one of the crystals. So the crystal is just refracting the light. I do apologize. My microscope's lens is a little dirty, but you're able to get these really cool like movements of like light just bouncing back and forth.
So cool. So we're not even looking at the crystal. We're just looking at the refraction through the crystal, but in a microscope.
Exactly. And
Interesting.
all I'm doing right now is just zooming the lens in and out to create these kind
Uh-huh.
of movements.
Wow. So cool.
Yeah.
Super cool.
And like I said before, if you then take it, if you look, you'll see the light kind of finely moving now.
Mm-hmm.
That's because with a dark field microscope, you have a filter that you can use to adjust and move light underneath it. So like right
Mm.
now, I'm blocking out the light. I'm adding the light back in. I'm adjusting the light left and right so I can kind of focus it more to get like these really cool micro motions.
Hmm.
So like when I step into the lab, I try to think of like movement and the type of genres I would play these to.
Right.
I usually think of slower moving genres. That way, let's say if it works for a slower moving genre, you can speed it up. If it works for a fast moving genre, it's a lot harder to slow it down.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like a good example of one is these I would use for a slower moving genre. Like for example, like I don't know, more emotional kind of like music that has slower BPM, and then in post, if I want to in Resolute, speed ramp it. A lot
Mm.
easier.
Totally.
Um, yeah, like I said, looking at stuff through a microscope, fascinating. You never know what you're gonna get sometimes.
It really
Uh,
is.
yeah, like this one is. You remember how I started off with the glitter one with like the dried up glitter one?
Mm-hmm. Whoa.
That's what this. Yeah, that's what it looks like up close.
Right. Just so cool.
It's
So
just
cool.
the
And the
texture,
different
and
zoom levels also is just like it creates, you can just get more and more interesting things from it.
yeah, and
You know
all
what?
like to create like some kind of movement. All I'm doing is just moving around the lights
The
on top
light.
of it to create this
Yeah.
like slow movement. If I wanted
Yeah.
to, I could just brightly jump them back up and down. But yeah,
So cool.
but yeah, I think this
Well,
is a good time to swap over.
okay,
Um,
let's swap over. All right,
okay,
so we've
cool.
switched a little bit of our setup, and Angel is going to walk us through a few things. Please take it away, Angel.
Sure, sure. I'm actually starting Davinci right now. Davinci is kind of like everyone has their program of choice. Davinci is mine. I use it for color editing, color grading, video editing. Sorry, my cat has missed me and decided this is the perfect time to say hi.
Hello, cat.
Yeah, just Nugget. I've had him for a long time, and if I'm gone for too long at festivals, my roommates
Oh,
send me pictures of him.
oh, sweet. Take it away.
I will take you through some example of some of my like color grades. Okay. So right now, um, anyone that's not used DaVinci, DaVinci is kind of like one of my favorite video editing programs. It pretty much just taken the floor away from Premiere, After Effects, a lot of ones for me. So whenever I work on footage, I like to bring it in. This is some of the raw footage that I've recently worked on. If you go to my Instagram, you'll see some of these. So this is different glitters and paints kind of mixed together, creating these really cool, like smooth motions. Um, this is a lot closer than the ones you were looking at. When I was kind of showcasing some, I wanted the crowd to be able to take it. The viewers to be able to take in kind of an idea of what they're looking at. So this is using Ferro fluid for the motion I mentioned earlier with like different glitters. So I'll go through what a color grade is. So a color grade in the most basic term is, let me reset this too. Reset my fusion one. Color grade is grading. You probably have done color grades in like After Effects where you've gone into like your levels, your curves, your basic balances. A color grade is a lot more detailed than that. So this is my color grade. This is what it looked like before. This is what it looked like after. The biggest thing is to be able to punch in certain colors, convert your color profiles over from like I said, I use Zlog, which is like Zcam's kind of basic one. So what I do is I convert it over to, sorry, I'm putting on some music for me. I don't know if you guys can hear it.
We lost your audio.
You did?
Yeah, there
Can
we
you hear
go.
me? Okay.
Yes.
Um, so it's converting it over from Davinci, well, from Zlog into Davinci, and then just like using different grades. So I'll even kind of go step by step. Convert it over, do some white balancing, some chromatic aberration, saturation increase. So right now, all the things I'm talking about, you're barely seeing because realistically, it's not until I get to around here do you really see it start punching out. Um, and that's just because this is where I'm taking it, converting over the color profile. What I like to do also is go in and mask off certain areas. So, for example, with this one, these dark blues here, I can grab and then go in and bring up the contrast on them. So that way I get a little bit more punch out of it. These like bright reds, I can grab on this one and then go here, dial them in for more of like a dreamy kind of like bleached out look. Um, and then once I go into here, this is converting it back. DaVinci has it so that way you can preview it from the step that you're on. So like this is showing me what these masks are. Then I go in and this is what it looks like by the time it's sent out of DaVinci Gamut into Rec 709, which is pretty much the standard of what people use. I know there are going to be color grading people that see this and think that this color grade's trashed, and they're right. Um, but sometimes I'll add like a tilt, what's called a tilt shift. So this is a tilt shift where it creates a blur based off of kind of like an angle. Um, so like I can use this to, let's do a blur strength up. Use this to create kind of like a focus on just like a certain area and animate it left and right if I want to.
Nice.
This is a good way, so that way, and you can keyframe it. So this is a good way for like some VJs that want to create like a pulse kind of effect to create
Mm.
kind of a sweeping motion back and forth to the beat. What I usually recommend when I work on stuff to a beat is start off on a BPM, get a click track, like a 120 BPM click track, and then just time it to the clicks. So that way you know when you bring it into live, you're gonna have that motion that's gonna match it. So this is a little bit much for this. I'm just gonna turn it off. And then I of course have like I use denoiser, dehancer, which lets me go in, adjust everything to like specific looks, match it to specific cameras. I use a little bit of lens distortion to give it more of that chromatic aberration that I was talking about before. So this is it without it being like a fine adjustment. So what this is doing is taking, I'll reset it. This is the basic of it, and it's creating a distortion, almost like a lens pull of each color channel based off this value. So if I move it, you see how it's creating like almost like a spherical eyes kind of feeling and reversing it. If I take that and then I put it so that way each channel is a little slightly different, is creating more of an edge around each piece. So very small, very, very important kind of detail. You can also create, so after that, I usually do a couple of sharpens. I usually try to keep it as simple as possible. I know some people want to get into mirroring it before they even kind of render it. So I'm going to pop a mirror on. Just to kind of showcase like an example of what this could look like if you were used to using it as a visual. Mirror, for example. So like, let's go forward. Yeah, you can see some of the
Mirror, let's go.
yeah, and that's just like a quick edit. This is shot using at 120. I think this was shot at 80 frames a second, and then I speed ramped it down to like 30, so I'm able to get these really cool small motions. This is just like a simple mirror, but if I want to go crazy into it, do some more crazier ones. Let's do 90. Yeah. And all I did was to record this, just some simple inks and fluids. So you can get a lot of really cool looks just out of mixing things, trying them out. Any questions so far, by the way? I'm just kind of speeding through
No,
these.
this is great. This is great. This is such useful information for people that are interested. And I really love Davinci so much.
And it's so good. It's so good. It's always one of those things that I tell people, like, definitely worth diving into. Especially because, like, realistically, Adobe, I'm team hate on Adobe sometimes.
Of course, you should be.
The program's not that great and very expensive. Versus DaVinci is like a one-time license and like one-time pay license and runs actually really well. They're constantly adding new features that just blow my mind. And also realistically, like a lot of people get into like color editing, but never color grading. And color grading is such a art form in itself that you can learn so much from it. DaVinci also has Fusion. Fusion, you can do a lot of really cool post effects. So like I'll showcase one real quick. So I'm gonna take this. Let's jump into Fusion, and then I'm gonna add a couple of quick nodes. So I'm gonna do some of my favorite ones. So let's do Super Pixel Sort. Grab that, throw this one into here, pop it over here. So now you're gonna see like a pixel sort mask I'm creating, and then gonna merge it. So then pop a merge, and you can see how quickly I'm able to do this versus with After Effects. This would kind of be buggy, kind of take a while to load. Stop this merge. Let's do this as a screen, and then create this. So remember how I said like doing things to beat? I can do this to beat, make it so that way the speed of it is based off of like an effect. Do this, pop down the max, so that way it's a little more glitchy. Mask overlay. Literally all I'm doing is just playing around with settings right now, and then just seeing what sticks, Let's do another super. I think one of my favorite ones is I have a lot of these, as you can see. Polygons. So super polygon, same thing, merge it in, create another merge tool. So this actually merges the this kind of like really cool. Let's do over. Let's play around with it. Hypotenuse is like a good one. And then this pixel sort is just a little bit too much, so I could time it down. Rank. I'm actually just going to get rid of the pixel sort. It's not my favorite. There we go. So just by doing simple effects, you can get... Because I believe in doing less instead of doing more for effects. So just by doing some quick effects, like this creates a Bornoil. I can never pronounce that right. Based off of like the motion. So you can create like these cool crystal-y looks, Do you have any questions, or am I being is everything good so far?
No, this is great. This is really nice. Keep it going.
Okay, cool. Let's see. I think this is one. I use this guy's stuff, a Cascape. This is a really good resource for anyone getting into DaVinci to get away from After Effects. Because realistically, the biggest thing that kind of killed me when getting away from After Effects was there's a lot of effects I really like that you can only find in After Effects. Because a lot of people don't make plugins for After Effects, unfortunately. Let's do this. So I just opened it and closed it. Script, escape, library, installed, Pixel Ditter. This one's one of my favorite ones. So Pixel Ditter lets me take in footage and then create a really cool kind of like Game Boy style look out of it. So using this, I can bump up the resolution, sit there, dial it in, add another color corrector node to it, change it from green into like let's do a blue. There we go. Let's do a blue. And then add that into my merge node to create there we go. I'll create another merge node instead. And to anyone kind of making fun of me fumbling, I'm still learning this program, but there's so much cool stuff I enjoy about it that, I may be fumbling, but I'm enjoying it, Um,
I may be fumbling, but I am enjoying it. Is like one of the greatest quotes I think that we all should be just saying all the time.
honestly, like it makes you kind of really appreciate just like the moment of just playing around with stuff, you know?
That's so funny.
Um, yeah, I think it's really important to just like get into a program and just play with it, just to see what you can
Yeah,
do, you know?
yeah.
But yeah, this is just like some examples of some effects I can do in DaVinci. And then once it's done, I can take it back into here and color edit it, do a bunch of really cool effects. Recently, I had to do some clips for cars, and I think I have them in here actually. Actually, let's do. I think it's in a different file. But here's a better example of one that I think is more relevant to this. A while ago, I had to do a music video.
Mm,
Music video, I call this a one shot. So, one
mm.
shot is where it's pretty much just everything in one clip. I could play it so that way you can actually see the whole thing. I think that's a better example of it. Uh, let's see. Work concepts. Uh, here we go. So here are some folders of just different clips I've like worked on and made. Example of a music video that's a really cool. I call them one shots. One shots are where you shoot the entire thing in just one shot. That's all it needs
Mm-hmm.
to be done. So example of
I
like a
also
cool
love that.
music video is taking it and creating it in is shooting it in one shot. What I did is I have a vinyl cutter, cut his logo, and then fed the song through a cymatic speaker with a couple of lights on it. And this is
What?
the effect I was able to get.
Wow.
So
So that those
yeah,
lines drawing around the vinyl is from the somatics?
it's just from the light. Yeah.
So
So
crazy.
the ring light that I showed you earlier, that's
Yeah.
the ring light, and that's it.
So crazy.
Yeah. Um, Another example is so ferrofluid. Here's an example of ferrofluid when it's not
Damn.
diluted by oil. Yeah, really cool, really cool.
This is a microscope or this is just a macro lens?
This is just a macro lens,
Mm. And a bunch of lights like hitting it in the right angles, I guess.
just one ring light,
Just one. Yeah, from the top.
just
Yeah, yeah,
one
yeah,
ring
yeah, yeah.
light. Yeah.
Interesting.
It's funny because when I was trying to record this, you can see, it's tracking everything like that. I was trying to physically move the camera, so it's kind of shaky. But that's a magnet underneath a ferrofluid.
Mm-hmm.
You get a lot of really cool looks out of it. Example of like some of the gold oil ones I showed earlier. This is one of the ones I recorded using the gold glitter and black ink one I showed you.
So cool.
These are really cool examples of just like background abstract shots that you can
Yeah.
use.
Yeah.
Um, I think that it's really important to think about texture in your shots,
Mm-hmm.
in your clips too. And the texture doesn't need to really make things. It needs to like add to the show. And if you think that you can create a texture just from simple glitter, try it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. It's making me like just have ideas about making like, normal maps and roughness maps that are just like tons of little dots, like little glitter dots.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is actually a clip that I'm pretty proud of. This is from underneath a microscope. This is the one I was telling you when you mix
Wow.
baking soda and vinegar. And then I took it, inverted it to make it look more dark and eerie, did a couple of
Mm.
color tones to it. But yeah, this is literally bubbles blowing up from baking soda and vinegar.
Wow.
Yeah. So this is an example of some clips I would use for like more of a darker set. Um, I also have it once I added some color into it, so I'm able to like create more textures from it.
Mm.
Yeah, these are some of my favorites as well.
Super sick.
Yeah, yeah. And then even these ones are
Oh, I love that. How do you get those like roads and with like those spaces?
the
It's just
so
naturally.
that's just the glitter. That's glitter
Fluid.
moving by itself.
Right. Fill it
and
in.
then color adjust it with a couple of different paints and oils to create these
Wow.
really cool, like really small micro motions.
Totally.
Um, yeah, you can also use, this is one that I was going to show that is when you add a bubble, this is just a bubble. So this is
What?
when you shine a light on a bubble, you can see the oils of it moving up and
Wow.
down.
So cool.
This is just a bubble.
Color corrected though, no?
Yeah, a little bit, but like
A little bit.
really not that vibrant, like
So
more
crazy.
than what it was. Yeah,
Right.
you
Right.
can get a
Right.
lot of really cool looks out of it. Um, if anyone doesn't know when I say looks, I'm clips or however anyone wants to translate it. This is another one from the same shoot,
Beautiful.
actually.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and just
How
be willing to
long?
experiment.
How long will you spend on a shoot? Let's say you're calling this a shoot. How long will you spend on it, more or less?
Um, I usually spend like maybe an hour or two in a good shoot.
Uh huh.
Just because like there are times where I just want to record and just play around with stuff.
Right.
Um, and like even that's a little bit overkill. Um, like realistically, like a good shoot I can do in like 10-20 minutes tops.
Really?
But I do like just playing around with stuff, like being able to get different textures, like of different inks and oils, and just try different things.
Right.
This is, you remember how I mentioned like the alcohol ink and vodka and how it doesn't, like how it coagulates.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like underneath a microscope.
Mm-hmm.
So it creates these really, really dense textures of like separation, you know?
Wow. With that like crystallization of it almost. So cool. It
Yeah.
looks so 3D.
Yeah, and all of it is, it's funny when people are like, what program do you use to make these? And I'm like, no
Mm.
program. I just do them.
Super cool, dude. Um,
Thank you.
is there anything else you want to show us before we move on?
Let's see. I think this is one of the more simpler ones that I was gonna show. This one's one of my more simpler ones, where it's just a light with like different textures rotating.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of times people get in this concept of like everything has to be these really complicated things
Right.
to look cool. Sometimes less is more. It's
Yeah.
about trying out different things to get different looks, you know?
Totally. 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 Ooh, look at that. It's so cool. Those nice ripples.
Yeah. But yeah, any questions? I know I've been just kind of ranting and rambling at this point.
No, I think you kind of answered most of it. Whenever we get into like fluid world, I'm always
Hmm.
fascinated by like, I kind of want to just like be there and play with it myself, but I kind
Yes,
of
I get it.
it's like it's hard to kind of like generate or think about questions that are like relevant because at the end of the day, it's such a unique kind of perspective of I don't know reality or art that it's
Yeah,
always so interesting to just see you kind of take it away.
this is an example of one too. This is an example of cymatics. So this is literally just a petri dish on a speaker attached to a speaker, and then you're seeing the bass being visualized through just like different ripples. I think cymatics is a really cool, fascinating look that I'm trying to like dial down more
Hmm.
because you can get really, really, really sick looks just from like simple shapes. So like
That's so
this
cool.
is simulating almost like a bird kind of look, you know,
Mm. Yeah, that's like a
versus
fly.
like,
So
yeah,
cool.
versus like this, which is a lot crazier.
Whoa.
Yeah, these are cymatics as well.
What music do
And
you push through them?
this was a drum and bass track. Usually I will have a track either sent to me or I pick a track and then I will just record it. Um,
Hmm.
to do a record of these, it takes maybe 10-20 minutes to like set up because
Really?
I use like a pretty big speaker. Yeah, I use a
Hmm.
speaker that lets me adjust it. And
Okay.
then whatever the length of the song. So this was like a 2-minute song and I recorded it, I think twice just to try
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
And that was it. This was a
Uh,
pretty
so is that
easy edit after.
mirror? Is that mirror digital, or is it just like a?
Uh, this one, like
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
It's digital,
it's
but a
digital.
lot of
Okay,
times, yeah,
it's
but
hard to
that's
see.
because the dish I used for this, I wanted to, um, oh, so when I do my mirrors, I don't like doing mirror in the traditional sense like I showed you,
Okay.
especially if I can do it as an edit. What I'll do is, let's do it on this one. Uh, let's do it on, actually this one, bubbles. Oh wait, it's a little bit easier spot. And then I'm gonna grab this. I'm going to take this. I go screen, and then I flip it,
Uh-huh.
and then color adjust it down so that way it's not as bright.
Mm.
So the reason I do that is because reset all grade, reset all grade. Take this, and then I guess control. There we go. Levels,
Mm-hmm. You're trying to
and then
get
just balance it.
interesting. So it's
Yeah,
not
just
like a
get the
mirror. It's not like
highlight.
a mirror. You're kind of like blending the mirror together with itself.
Exactly. That way you don't. So with mirrors, you tend to get that really, really hard cut that
Mm-hmm.
happens in the middle,
Right.
which I am not a fan of. I think it looks kind of tacky unless you're
No.
doing it with purpose.
Yeah, with
Like,
purpose. With purpose.
yeah. And like as a stage piece, sometimes it actually looks good because it's like right behind the artist.
Right.
With this, you're able to
Symmetry.
have more of a softer
Instant
blend
symmetry.
of, yeah, you're having more of a softer blend of your mirror kind of like down the center.
Yeah. Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
and you also still have like some variation to be able to like dial it in. So
Mm-hmm.
like right now I can go in, adjust these, and then in Davinci you can do what's called a adjustment layer. So adjustment layer, I can go to adjustment clip, bring that in, pop it above it.
Excuse me.
No worries. And then from there, I have like simple ones, glow. When I do my glows, instead of doing it just like kind of random, what I like doing is do another node where I could actually mask it off a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
That way I could adjust it better, you know?
Smart. Okay, so let me start recording here. Um, all right. Well, Angel, thank you so much for sharing with us your amazing talents and your
Thank you.
multidisciplinary approach to doing visuals. It's always such a enjoyable thing to kind of see where people come from and see, what they're actually up to now, and putting all those things together. So, moving into our second portion here, I'd like to talk to you about a bunch of stuff. I think that the first thing I'd like to talk to you about is something that we mentioned a little bit, but we didn't really go deeper into, and that is Burning Man, and your
Mm,
role this year with the Playa Alchemist. For those who don't familiar, that's the really really big pyramid on the Playa. So yeah, give us a little bit of a rundown of what is going to be your role there. What is your Burning Man philosophy, and I'm sure you're really excited. So just share with us a little bit.
yeah, yeah. This is my second year at Burning Man. I got brought on with a team last year. Shout out to Birdman and all the homies. Um, Kevin, Lauren, thank you for bringing me on last year as well as this year. Um, I got brought on pretty last second to create some animations, some 3D motion stuff, as well as VJ it.
Mm-hmm.
Last year I was with them for the gallery. This year I will be with them for the Playa Alchemist, like you said, the Big Pyramid.
Yeah.
Very excited about it. The what I'll be doing is providing animations for it as well as VJing it. If you want, you can go back over to my screen and I can show some examples of some of the ones I've actually already finished for it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, oh, wait, I just realized I stopped sharing my screen. Sorry.
Yeah.
I
Sure.
can
Yeah.
share
If
my
you want.
screen and show it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is an example of one of the ones that I did for it. Um, is
Let me
it
see.
sharing my screen? Sorry.
Let me see here.
There we go.
Yes.
So this is um, cymatics
maybe.
being ran through it, and then into like a pyramid to create these really cool like cymatic patterns that I'll be using for it.
So cool.
Yeah. These are just some basic ones. And then when I create them with in and out point to be able to mix them based off of it.
Oh.
All of these are shot at different frequencies. So I create like a tone generator at a different frequency, and then I shoot it from that different tone.
This is crazy.
Um, yeah, this is one of my favorite ones. A lot of really fluid and just slow motion movement.
Yeah.
Um, I think that like a lot with cymatics, and especially with scale, you got to think about
Yeah.
these are being used on a 9 foot, a 9 story pyramid on a massive pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
So something that's moving way too quickly is going to be really jarring. Like this is the
For sure.
quickest anything's going to move there.
Yeah.
Um, Even some of the ones I've worked on outside of it, like this one, for example, um, is like an idea that I'm
Nice.
kind of like playing around with, just like different glitters moving around.
Mm. Nice.
Yeah, creating like these cool like motions. These I'm still gonna go through and just like dial in more.
Sick.
But these are just like different concepts that I'm just kind of working on.
I love the lighting here. This is great.
Yeah, that is the ring light, actually, the one I told you about,
Mm-hmm.
with like just different fluids moving back and forth.
Mm.
Example of kind of like the raw edit, the raw record of this is actually, I think I have some on this memory card. Um,
Super cool. Um, yeah, so I guess Burning Man is kind of like one of those places, it's like there's no, there's
yeah,
no,
this is one of the raws of the
oh,
one you just saw. So,
wow. So
uh,
you're just doing a lot of color correction here to get rid of all that stuff, huh? Interesting.
yeah, you crop it out and then you color correct it, use like different
Black.
motions. Yeah.
Interesting.
And all
Super
this
cool.
is just different paints interacting with
Mm-hmm.
a couple of lights. So
Mm-hmm.
by keeping it simple, it makes it so that way I'm able to go in, try new like looks. This one I think is black and gold glitter, just kind of moving in like a small petri dish. There we
Mm.
go.
Lovely.
And then once I get these into Davinci, I'm able to dial them in better to
Mm-hmm.
look more suiting to like the look I want to get. So like with
Right.
this one, I'll be using them to try to create. So you see how there's these gold like spots coming out. I want to
Mm-hmm.
make it look like it's like gold pieces rising up.
Mm-hmm.
I also am doing a 3D example for it too, which I can kind of showcase.
Yeah, sure.
That one I think is more into like the After Effect, into the Unreal Engine side, to kind of
Ooh.
show like some of the more real time stuff if you want to see
Yeah, would never say no to Unreal.
it. Let's see. I have to remember. There we go. Lots of files, lots of files. I wish Unreal did it where you can sort my project by the most recent open project. It is like a pretty simple like effect. I think would actually like help out a lot.
Mm.
This may take a second. So if you want to edit
Take your
out
time.
this waiting moment, yeah,
Yeah, maybe I'll just cut it out for sure.
yeah. This is the one that I want to use your plugins for actually, so that way I can do like
Let's go.
lots of really cool like forces movements into like on live, because this one's going to be used live. We have two different computers, one that's going to be used more for like the Unreal Engine processing side, and then
Mm-hmm.
this one, and then another one for the actual Resolume kind of front. um I think it's going to look really good. There we go. Do-do-do. So, okay, I'm ready. Sorry about that.
Yeah, you're good. No worries.
So this
Ooh.
is
Oh, you
actually
showed me
based off
this.
of,
Yeah, you showed me this. So
Yeah,
cool.
so this is actually based off of a sketch that I did in a program called Hexels a while ago. To create isometric looks in 3D, it's kind of hard, just because like isometric is very big on like what your viewpoint is.
Hmm.
So what I did with this, if you look, these pieces up here are actually extruded and made out of 3D.
Hmm.
These pieces, to make them look isometric, I just shaded them using different materials.
Mm, shit.
Um, so this
By the
piece
way,
exactly,
you know, in 5.6 there's a what is it called, camera? Like not a perspective camera, orthographic camera.
orthographic, yes. I need to like I need to set that up because I want to set it up so is the orthographic camera like a direct point on?
No, it's just like a normal camera. It's just instead of you having like a field of view and a projection, you just have like a, you know, a zoom back and forth. But it's like any
That
any
makes sense.
orthographic camera. It's I think you have to enable it. It's like in the settings somewhere. But it's
Okay, I'll double
supposed
check
to have
for
all.
it
It has all the
because
features as the Cine camera. So it should work
oh,
pretty
that
well.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because right now the camera I use is there it is, camera mapped. Let's see, pilot camera map. This is the camera that's mapped to the pixel map.
Mm-hmm.
So that way I know with like an example of the pixel map overlaying it, so that way I can make sure, you know,
It
as I'm
fits
animating, setting up like different limitations of movement, I could use it that way.
for sure.
And then using wire, I'm able to go in and create a control point for Resolume.
Mm.
So this one in particular, if I look at just the pyramid blueprint by itself, just some features I have built into it. It lets me control if I want to run a sequence through it, I can control the sequence. If I want to
Mm-hmm.
run a material collector, change out the
Mm-hmm.
material, I can do it on the fly.
Nice.
Rotate not just one piece, but like the individual colors. So like what I did was my mind state is make it so that way I can move each piece in and out to create these
Mm.
really cool kind of like multi-layer movements.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and
So
then
cool.
let's see, I think this is my wire patch. There we go. And this is my wire patch. So using wire, I can actually create a control point for it. Some of these
Mm-hmm.
aren't hooked up, but let's say if I do, I'm not sure if this will run well because Unreal tends to crash a lot.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's also very hard to see the way that it's running right now. But you could just do play an editor, no? You don't have to open up a new one.
Play in editor or just simulate. So with simulate, it should work. But right now, I can do this. Yeah, you can see the lights. So I can move lights around in the scene,
Nice. Cool. Super
change the
cool.
color of them all in real time. So like
Nice.
red. And these are controllable through Resolume. There's a couple other ones I'm gonna be adding in.
Mm-hmm.
If I want to just turn off those lights too, I can do that. Um,
Super cool.
then of course like different effects, like I have shaker effects, I have camera switchers, so that way I can switch out cameras,
Nice.
camera distance that lets me adjust the camera. And then as I kind of mentioned before, a lot of these aren't hooked up yet just because this is a scene I'm still kind of working on.
Mm-hmm.
But be able to control the model, be able to pick different lightings for them, all just built into here.
Nice.
Um, because the biggest thing
That's super
is you want to
cool.
make it so that way once it's built, you don't have to open Unreal to like keep adjusting it. It
Right.
works, you know?
Right. 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 Of course. Of course. Of course. Of
Yeah.
course. Nice, dude. That's awesome. I love seeing kind of the different use cases of Unreal, of course, and you know, you're somebody who has such a good experience and knowledge of Unreal that when you moved into real time into physical stuff, I was like, oh damn, I lost another one. But now that you're coming back to it, I'm really excited by that. Um,
I think that a lot of it is also utilizing both in like an interesting way. So like what I've been doing more of is taking physical footage and then mixing it into 3D space.
mm-hmm.
So like an example of one I did with this one is I kind of spoke to you about it. What I want to be able to do is um, NDI other people's feed as
Into the scene,
video
yeah,
overlaying it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Um, yeah, there's a lot more space that you can use when you're combining the two different mediums, and it's just kind of playing around and seeing what you can do, you know?
For sure. For sure. Okay, so moving a little bit deeper into the esoteric or kind of interesting places of conversation, and please feel free to take this wherever you want. I'm just kind of like
Sure.
trying to set it up in a way. But when it comes to like microscopic landscapes, when it comes to fluid dynamics and the interaction of different particles, to movement and light and all these kind of things, or waveforms and frequencies,
Hmm.
do you ever get into like these places of it doesn't have to be spirituality per se, but just like do you ever get into these thoughts and ideas of like, wow, there's like this crazy hidden world right above the surface, almost like some sort of different hidden dimension that's always there, but you can only see it with a microscope, kind of similar to like maybe like some sort of idea of a higher dimension or altered state. Does that ever kind of like fall into your mind, or do you ever think about that?
I don't think I think about it too much, but that's mainly because whenever I'm working on things, I'm looking at it from the sense of like almost like a science kind of mind state.
Yeah.
I think also because um, in that moment when I'm working on this stuff, it's very much in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like I'm looking and thinking of like it's almost like a focus, you know, like it's like something's captivated me. I just
Mm-hmm.
have to look at that.
Mm-hmm.
So like I mentioned at the beginning of this, I do want to work on a piece that kind of shows the very fascinating kind of like similarities of how on a macrocosm
Mm-hmm.
how space and just like a lot of major like big things kind of look alike. Like I've
Right.
worked on pieces where people are like, "Wow, that looks like it's an ocean," and I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's just a bubble."
Right.
Um, I've seen people like show me like fractal animations, and I was like, "Yeah, you could get that out of like a bubble or a crystal," and then you just kind of notice the different kind of like how different things look similar, if that makes sense, you know?
No, it makes total sense.
Um,
It's the macro micro. You look at
yeah,
you look at salt crystals, and it's just an array of little tiny atoms, right? And you zoom out, and
yeah,
the salt itself is just that. Just like a little
that's
atom.
literally it. Yeah.
So I think that there's so much potential there. By the way, to explore. Kind of even having
Hmm.
like. I'm just like thinking like you have like a set where you're like in the microscope deep 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 deep, and then you have like some sort of zoom out effect, and all of a sudden you're in whatever it is that the microscope was seeing, but like the
Yeah,
physical, or you zoom
I
out
do.
from some like you're talking about all these like gases and stuff like that. You zoom out into a nebula, or something along those lines, or
Yeah,
zoom
one of
into a
the
nebula
ones
or
that
something.
I want to work on is I want to work on and this is part of the reason I mentioned I'm studying magnets right now. I want to make a portable control rig for electromagnets based off of a video feed, like a black and white video feed that you can send into it.
Okay.
That way you can send. So picture like a grid of magnets. On top
Okay.
of it is a container of ferrofluid.
Right.
Those grids of magnets are turned
Like an
on based off
address.
of a video, yeah,
Yeah.
of what you're sending into it from
Yeah. Like a
resonance.
texture. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
then you can video map your magnetic field to
Amazing.
create, yeah, to create animation, not even animations, real time looks from
Yeah.
ferrofluid.
It's kind of like what you were doing with where instead of moving a light under your petri dish, you have like a little LED screen, and you can send it to
Hmm.
textures. So now you're getting like, instead of just movement, you're getting also like more advanced movement. You're getting
Hmm.
patterns. You're getting things. So I think, yeah, making an array of addressable
Magnets.
addressable magnets is fucking brilliant. I can't wait for that. And using
Yeah,
something
it's
generative like
one
touch
that
design.
it's one
Yeah,
that
please.
I think would create like a really cool moment of like impact where let's say on a video wall you just see like a completely black layer and then all of a sudden coming out of it is
Yeah.
like a form of like the artist's like outline. So
Mm.
then you're getting like the artist's movement, but it's combined with like the fluidity of ferrofluid. And when you turn it off, it just like flows outward.
How
Um,
how dense can you get the magnets? And like if you had like a really dense magnet array, would a
Mhm.
point actually like, would you be able to tell the difference between a point here and a point here for, like really close to each other?
The thing is, I'm making a very small array.
Mm-hmm.
If you make it a lot bigger, yeah, and yes, you do lose like a lot of like detail the smaller you go. But because my big idea behind it is portability. I don't want
Right.
it
Of
to be
course.
something where it's like a massive thing you have to take
Of
with
course. Of
you
course.
to like a venue to set up for. I want to set it up so that way it's small. It's like it doesn't have to be a very detailed array as
Mm-hmm.
long as it gets the idea through, you know?
Yeah, 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 for sure. So yeah, exactly. As long as like if you move a pulse, you're getting that feeling, or if you're moving a line, you get that feeling. I think it's such a great idea. It will open up for you so much more automation for your animation. So like your hands are now a little bit more freed up. You don't have to move a light,
Yeah.
or whatever, set a light. It's like a lot more. I mean, I guess you still have to press a button, but it's a little bit different,
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's also like a way where it's something that like I believe that as an artist you should take every field of like design and creation and try to collaborate them together to create new
yeah,
things.
totally,
It creates like an ability to take the things I know as a VJ and then turn that into a way of like as a more the macro and micro stuff.
totally.
Creating control points, creating things that make it so that way you can do things that beat, you can
Hmm.
make things transitionable. Because a lot of times, having something with just like an all black creates a transition point. Having something
Of
where
course,
you could create quick motions going left to right creates
right.
another transition point.
Totally, totally.
Yeah.
So true. Yeah, and it's such a cool transition point where all of a sudden you see this like kind of, my favorite visuals are when it's like you see like sharp lines of something, a grid or something,
Hmm.
and then all of a sudden it changes to like some fractally like, fluid. Like that
Yeah.
shift between symmetry and asymmetry, or that shift between sharp and smooth. I love those kind of things. And you have the ferrofluid is just like black, all of a sudden it starts doing something. It's such a cool transition into something else. I'm
Yeah, I've
super
also
excited for that.
shared examples of, if you look at my profile, you'll see ones of like where I pixel mapped bubbles recently,
Okay.
which was an interest. It should be the
Most
second
recent,
from latest one, I think.
this one? Yeah.
That one, yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So that's actually pixel mapping bubbles. So
Right.
behind it is a small, really, really small LCD that I matched to the edges, that I matched out of Resolume to the edges of the camera, and then I just fed light behind, literally just bubbles in a petri dish.
I mean, it looks
So
so
like,
digital. Like it's so cool, and I really want to talk to you about that dichotomy between the physical and digital. But
mhm,
before, because that's like a nice closing topic. But I do want to kind of break it down a little bit and go back a little bit to and we don't have to talk about it if you don't want to, or we can go as deep as not deep as you want, but your military service, this is something that I
sure.
like to talk about with people that were in the military. I was in the military too.
Yeah, we talked about that.
I always feel like there's something especially when it's like post, especially when
Hmm.
it's like 10 years later or whatever years later, and you're kind of you're much more uh, connected to yourself, grounded to yourself. You're, obviously a creative mind. You're kind of in this like ideology of art and creation. So I guess, again, open topic. Please take it wherever you want. But can you kind of tell us a little bit about your military service? Why did you decide to go to the military, and maybe how you view it now? How did it shape you as an artist, or as a person? Please feel free
Sure.
to take it where you want.
Sure. The reason I joined the military is simple because I lived in Orlando, and the easiest way to escape Orlando is to get out and join the army.
That's funny.
Um, there is I have a lot of friends that still live there, and they've definitely heard me speak about how much I didn't like it, and I joined the
Mm-hmm.
army to get away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it did help me out a lot. It made it so that way I tell people like while you're in, it's terrible. There's a lot of things that just aren't fun, but when you get out, it helps you out. It sets you up right. If you use the benefits of it. So like, for example, I always wanted to go to school for design. I got my degree. My degree was paid for because of that. Um, I own a house, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, I joined the military. I want to say when I was like 19, freshly turned 20. And it's funny because nowadays I have at the gym, I'll have like 19-year-olds come up to me because they see me walking around with an old army bag and they'll ask me
Uh,
questions.
uh-huh.
Um, and I tell them like the biggest thing is kind of some of the things I learned. It teaches you structure. It teaches you a lot of things that help you later on, long term, structure, finance, things that you kind of don't always understand outside of the world of that.
Mm.
Um, when I transitioned out, I
Mm-hmm.
remember it was like a very jarring moment too, because I was active
Mm.
duty for 6 years.
Wow,
And I remember,
long time.
yeah, I remember the moment when I signed the final piece of paper. I got
Mm-hmm.
my DD 214, which is like your freedom papers. You're done with the army, you know. And I remember sitting in my car for like a good solid 20 minutes just in silence and just
Mm.
thinking, okay, now what?
Now
Because
what?
this is the first.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was the first time in my like fully adult life, like as a career point, that
Mm.
I didn't have something laid out to tell me what the next step was.
Mm.
Um, and it was a scary moment, but I remember thinking, now I get to make art. Now I get to do what I've always wanted to do, and that's been my driving purpose since. So,
Mm. Interesting.
um,
So
yeah,
was
I
it?
will say, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
please. No, 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 no. You go ahead, please.
I was gonna say it did give me also the ability to see more parts of the world.
Yeah.
See, well, I tell people all the time, go travel, go like see the world, go see other cultures, go kind of immerse yourself in different places. I know
Mm-hmm.
people that are my age, and I'm in my 30s, that barely have left the state that they were born in. You know,
Mm-hmm.
the world, I call the world the biggest and smallest place at the same time. It's easy to travel, but there's so much to do, if that makes sense.
Totally. Totally. Yeah, it's such an interesting thing. Like, the army is such a controversial, yet I think maybe, we're kind of in a post controversy about war
Yeah.
world, maybe at this point.
I
I
always tell
think.
people war is bad. That is something that like a
That you
lot of
learn.
people when people ask me how I feel about things, I'm like, war is bad. It's not fun. It's like
No.
the people that do find it fun are the people that aren't actually doing anything. The
Yeah.
people that are uh don't find it as fun as the others, you know?
100%. And it's also one of those things that, like, people, you know, I think in America it's very different because you have a choice. Maybe you could,
Yeah.
you could argue that the choice is kind of not really there. Like you even said yourself, you went there because you wanted to escape. Maybe that's some sort of design, a different, demographics, different people are drawn
Yeah.
towards it. You're also taking, and I say this in quotes, advantage of 18-year-olds where they're not so fully formed. They don't know what they want to do. Okay, here's an option to
Yeah.
get out instead of maybe offering them social programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Military industrial
I
complex up the
agree.
wazoo. But,
Yeah. I will
we're,
I will say so like as I have a few family members that joined the different branches growing up. I grew up in not the best kind of like financial situation as a kid. And I know it was a good way for a lot of people to escape. When I talked to other soldiers, a lot of them said like it helped them, especially a lot of older ones who have been in for a long time to decide to be, I call them lifers, the one that stayed for 20 plus years.
yeah,
Um, and I think
careerists.
that, but I also served in Korea at one point with like Korean soldiers who it wasn't a choice. They have to do
Right.
mandatory military
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
And it's gave me more perspective on, especially even talking to people that were older generation in Korea, that they
Yeah.
talked about the things that they learned from their military service.
Yeah.
Um, do I think that it's a good thing to go into the military? I think that's an option. I think that realistically, it's not an easy option, but it's an option because I think that sometimes you don't always get to pick the cards that life deals you.
It's true.
I I was in a really bad financial situation, not just, Florida, but other things. And when I decided, I was going to cut off my ponytail and go surf, um, it taught me a lot. It made me feel like it taught me physical fitness. I went from 110 pounds soaking wet to
I
like
mean,
I'm almost
this
200
guy,
pounds.
yeah, you're swole, like, and you're pretty short, and like the fact that your muscle mass is quite impressive to say the least.
Thank you. It's because I try to take a saying, one of my favorite sayings from, like, I think it's Aristotle. I always get Aristotle and Plato mixed up. Aristotle said, "It is a shame for a man to grow old and not know the
Mm,
limitations of his body,"
I love
and
that.
it is something that, like, I'm 35. It's something that, like, every day, when I go to the gym, I'm not trying to get stronger than anyone else. I'm just trying to improve myself. And I think that, like, as a artist, the it's one of the coolest things you can do, because as an artist, you are the sculptor and the sculpture at the same time, and you're
So true.
seeing yourself get sculpted in real
Beautiful.
time.
Beautiful.
So, like, when you think of it from that standpoint, it's a very cool artistic standpoint of, like, creation, you know?
I love that. I love that. I wish I mean, I have to be physically active. I'm the same age as you, and I am not swole at all. I'm swole with fat, and
Don't get me wrong. I have a lot of fat on me too.
oh, shut up.
Yeah.
Your fat is muscle mass. Give me a break.
I call
Um,
Burning Man when I do my cuts, because I'm gonna be out there sweating and eating a little bit a day,
yeah, it's your fast, like your cleanse, Burning Man cleanse.
pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, the military. On this podcast, I've had the option. I've had the honor of speaking with lots of people that have had different types of military service and different perspectives on it.
Hmm.
And yeah, like you said, I think that choice aspect is so interesting, because I also come from a country where we were, forced is a strong word, but let's say, in my culture and community, there was no option for me not to go to the army, especially when,
Right.
15 years ago. So I didn't really think about it at all. Now I think that the concept of not going is a little bit more broad and thought out. But either way, it's mandatory. So I think the interesting aspect of it is the perspective. The perspective that it
Hmm.
provides you, is very powerful. But the problem is when you don't make that choice, and this is true
Hmm.
for all choices in your life. When you're forced into something, it's very likely that you're going to A, rebel against it, B, not enjoy the thing that you're doing, and C, kind of look at it as like a traumatic experience, even if it could have been something else. the the
Yeah.
the uh, the obfuscation, not allowing yourself to choose the thing, is what creates that negative impact. And then the flip side of that is, even if the thing is negative, even if the thing is bad for you, because you made that choice to do it, if you're a positive, optimist, you're going to look at that choice as, no matter what the outcome was, the higher meaning of it was that I chose. And that, I think, is
Yeah.
like kind of a really cool thing about the nature of reality, and kind of like the idea of making choices, and freedom, by the way. I think that
Hmm.
the biggest thing that I learned from my military service was, what does freedom mean? Because I didn't have any freedom. Because my freedom was stripped of me, not out of my choice. That when I did end that experience, and I could go and experience what I wanted to experience as freedom, because it's very
Hmm.
subjective, I learned what that means, and it kind of enforced my perspective on, on human rights, on, the right and ethics, kind of right and wrong
Yeah.
ethics, and just kind of like the idea of, you know, control, manipulation, propaganda, etc.
Yeah, when I was younger, when I was around 18, 19, right before I joined, I was also I still am very politically active, very big about voicing my opinions on, like, politics, as well as different world kind of, like, situations. I grew up in New York during 9/11, so,
Mm.
like, I've definitely seen the world kind of change over the years. And when I joined, it also gave me another perspective of, like, I tell people a lot of times, from the outside, you see the military complex as like this terrible, terrible thing. And when I joined, I went from seeing the outside of it and seeing the inside, where it's families, friends, soldiers that are your coworkers, that are people that you spend more time around than anyone else.
Mass
Um,
bureaucracy. No, I'm just joking.
and seeing like those moments of like when you see, in the news about big military movements and everything like that, war in Afghanistan, war in Iraq, for example, and then seeing it and talking to people that were boots on the ground,
That were
that
there.
were
Yeah.
that were there, and the difference of opinion on it. My job when I was in the military, I was air defense, and I learned a lot about different systems. I talked to a lot of people based off of how different systems have saved other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And realistically, you go from the outside looking in. The outside looking in, you're looking at soldiers killing people, which is
Right.
bad, really bad.
Yeah.
But then on the inside, you go from that to people defending and trying to make sure their friends are okay.
Yep.
And like, but the issue is that's on both sides. And I
Of
think that
course.
when people ask me about it, I always say the same thing. Like I started it with this: war is bad. War is bad for everyone that's involved
Yeah.
outside of the people that aren't actually on the ground.
Well, outside of the people that are profiting from it.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a better way of
you
saying
know,
it. Yeah.
I think that you know, at the end of the day, we're in a modern society. You know, we're post industrial revolution, we're post internet revolution, we're post World War I, World War II. There's a need for military. It's just that's the unfortunate reality that we're in, and maybe that's always been the case with modern society. Who knows, or even ancient society. I
I
think
played
where
Metal
the
Gear.
exactly. I think where the lines are clear to me, at least, is that war is bad, right? So there should be really no, like in modern civilization, there really is no reason to go to war unless there is some sort of policy,
Mhm.
agenda, ideology, or profit to be had, which I guess is like the same thing as those things. And to me,
So,
it's like it's never the soldiers, it's never the
mhm.
civilians, it's never the actual people. You know, it's almost like corporations, right? People working for the corporations could be the nicest fucking people ever, and they may be like, if somebody works for McDonald's, they know McDonald's' negative impact on the world, but they're just a person. They're like trying to like do a job, and maybe even you could say that because they're a good person in this negative system, they're actually making the negative system somewhat better. You know, that's the argument of like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you work if McDonald's is going to pay you money to do something? Why wouldn't you? You're going to take that money and you're going to transmute it into something good, right? So I
And
think that the
I was gonna say, so when I was
please.
in, you see a lot of toxic leadership in the military. When I was in, I was under toxic leadership at different times, but also I was under good leadership. And the good leadership not only helped me grow to the adult I am nowadays, but also helped me grow to the leader I am
Mm,
nowadays. And I feel
nice.
like a lot of leadership roles in the military also, you have to think about it like this: you aren't in charge of the person above you, but you're in
Right.
charge of the life of the person below you. If
Mm,
you can do
wow.
something to make that person better, then you should.
Yeah. That's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I just
Yeah.
I hope we live in a world where like and again, I'm American, of course, but I didn't grow up here, so my perspective
Mhm.
is definitely different. I'm proud of American, but I think that the I think that the as an Israeli, I'm a proud of American. That's like, you know, you gotta be a proud
Yeah.
American as an Israeli. Um,
I mean, it's a very weird time space right now.
super time.
Like I was born and raised in New York. My family's Jamaican. I moved to the South, and when I got out the military, and unfortunately, I love Nashville. I love Tennessee. A lot of my friends live here. It's part of the reason I moved here. But I'm a brown guy, and living here, I've dealt with a lot of racism the moment I got here, and I'm at the point of wanting to move because of it.
Oh wow,
Um,
wow,
yeah, it is. I have to walk around with my passport in my gym bag just to be safe because
oh,
of threats of ICE.
oh,
I've had
it's
people.
ridiculous.
I try to be more vocal about it too because, like, as someone that as someone that does a lot of research, as someone that is a very politically aligned individual, and also as someone that I try to come from a place of information and trying to educate others. I want others to feel comfortable getting information from me. Versus you have a lot of people that they have to be careful. I used to work in corporate America. I understand how it is, where you can't really voice a lot of things that you want to voice.
Yeah.
Me,
Well,
I'm an I'm an artist that I work for myself. I can say
yeah.
whatever I want, you know.
I think you're being a little bit too generous to those people. But yeah, I do know what you're saying. It's the difference between being opinionated and informed, right? You can have lots of opinions, but your opinions are wrong unless you're informed about those opinions.
Mhm.
But just to wrap up the military part, and then we can go wherever we want. But what I was saying is I really hope that in America and in Israel and really anywhere where there's a strong military presence, that the positivity that the military provides young adults and shapes our young people like yourself will be switched and opened up to social programs, to
Yes.
volunteering programs, to leadership programs, to things that don't involve like. That's the thing that I always find funny about the Army is all those lessons that I got in the Army. I got them really condensed, really young,
Hmm.
and with trauma, So it's like I
Yeah.
wish I would have learned all those things outside
Yeah.
of that kind of place. And I think it's important for us not to. I think it's
I
important for us
think
to. Yeah, please. What do you think?
I think that like one of the ways I wish that not just the military complex, but just like from a technological standpoint,
Mm,
is keep in mind outside of like the macro and micro stuff, I'm obsessed with space.
right.
And I think that one of the best things I ever heard was it was of an astronaut that he stepped out onto, he got to space
Yeah.
and like he looked at Earth at
The blue
from like
marble.
the giant blue marble that we're all existing on. And
Yeah.
he said that it's all meaningless. This is all
Mm,
stupid. And
mm,
it is the idea that all these little, like, country based arguments, wars, things like that, if
stupid.
humanity as a whole would step away from that and
Mm,
just work alongside of each other, there's so much vast amounts of great things that as a species we
totally.
could do. There's literally, if you think about it, we know more about space than we do about our own oceans.
Yeah. Yeah. How
There's,
crazy is that?
yeah, we're still
Crazy.
finding out things on our own planet.
Yeah.
And there is so much more to space that exists. Like, as a planet, we are a fairly young planet that exists, like, literally in a blimp of time. There's constantly other planets that we're finding,
Totally.
constantly other discoveries. And I think that realistically, something I wish that I would see before, of course, like I pass away, is I wish we would see more colonization of other like planets, more
Mm,
escapes into like the vast unknown.
mm.
Um,
I love that.
just because I think it's so fascinating the thought of like, so for example, you know what a carbon-based life form is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So the
Us.
concept is every single living being right now, based off the rules of science, as of right now, is based off of carbon. Who's to say that there's not another planet where there's gaseous beings, where
Totally.
there's
Let's
liquid-based beings?
That's like the whole thing of like we're seeing all these planets, we're not seeing life, but we're looking for life as we know it. Maybe there's maybe life is a gas cloud like you said, or maybe life is
Exactly.
rings around a planet, who knows.
Yeah.
For sure. Or microscopic. And that actually brings me to the last topic that I would want to talk to you about is this idea of the physical and digital realms, where they
Mhm.
overlap. You have such an interesting perspective here because you've been overlapping them for a little bit of time now. My perspective is like, okay, I do a lot of simulation and a lot of digital simulation and a lot of physical based effects, right? That's what I like. Fluid based simulations. And for me, my overlap is when I look at reality, when I go to nature or I look at water or whatever, and I get inspired or I get like, oh, I want to do that in the computer. Or when I do something in the computer, like, oh, I want to look at the way it works in physical space. And A, that inspires me. B, it also connects, like, I'm very spiritual. So, or I, not, I like to be spiritual. So that also informs my spirituality of like this, not only like ghost in the machine kind of concept of like, what is zeros and ones and how are we zeros and ones in like kind of abstract way of thinking, or non-abstract if you think about simulation theory. But, you know, where do those things meet? How do they kind of inform and direct my art? And also, how do they inspire me to want to say something more than just look at this abstract shape, right? Like for me, I like that I'm using simulation and generative art and fluids because it inherently has an intention. You know, like nature's intention is not clear, but it's obviously that it's just there. There is no...
Well, like I said at the beginning of this, art imitates life and life imitates art. So I believe that by going back to kind of the originations of inspiration, you have to look at the things that inspired you to be an artist in the first place. I remember even as a kid, I spent a lot of time just looking at nature, doing photos of nature, sketching out different like natural scenes. Um, I grew up in, like I said, cities, projects. I grew up in not the best part of town, but I also loved going to parks, going to just like look at small things, even as a kid. I think that in the sense of like simulations and concepts, we get so drawn into the idea of the mathematics that drives and creates things that we forget just to appreciate things as they exist. We forget that sometimes, like, I could look at bark and just be like, this is cool. And it's fine to just appreciate for that. But I could also look at how that bark was formed and think, wow, that's a really interesting process. I think that sometimes we forget that everything in art isn't meant to be understood. Everything in art sometimes just exists for the sake of existing. I used to teach workshops about from a creative standpoint, and one of the questions I got asked once was, how do you define art? And I said that art is one of two things. It can either it's either the expression of an emotion, or it's the invocation of an emotion. If you see something makes you feel an emotion, then that is art, and that is the human part of art. I think that especially nowadays, you're seeing a lot of people get more into like simulations, into more like generative, like AI stuff. And I remind people that like it is important to just understand different mediums and just play around with things in a way where it's less about whether it's efficient and about how fast you can do it, and about just like the creative standpoint of it. Like even nowadays, I watch old movies and look at the makings of like VFX from like the 90s and the 80s, and it makes me appreciate those movies even more. Versus if you look at VFX from movie standpoints, physical VFX is timeless. If you look at Jurassic Park, from which came out forever ago, still looks
it looks
great.
so good.
Yeah. Versus with simulations, you're always going to run into the limitations of computers, the limitations of technology. Sometimes one thing that I do hear a lot as like a traditional, technically I am a what I'm considered a mixed media artist, but when I do practical
multidisciplinary.
VFX, when I do practical VFX, I've had people refer to me as like a traditional artist. And the one thing I hear a lot when people try to, give me entire spiels about AI is you're going to get left behind. You're going to like, the future is now, all of these things. And I asked them, would you say that to a traditional painter? Would you say that to someone that's taking inks and canvas?
I love that.
And usually when you look at it, it's then turns that image back to say like, art doesn't have to be effective. Art doesn't have to be quick and made in a certain way. It just has to exist, and it doesn't have to exist for a purpose. It just has to exist,
100%. 100%. I love that. That was such a beautiful explanation of that aspect. And, say that quote again about the art. It is like it can either art is either something that you are affecting or something that is affecting you.
No, it's either the invocation of emotion,
invoke,
or the expression of emotion. In other words, I created this because I was expressing it from a emotional standpoint. I created this and it made someone feel an emotion.
Right. It's that idea of, you know, the expression of the thing is what makes it the thing, and then
Yes.
on the, you know, or the like, you know, if you just say sound, if you release sound with no ears, then there's no
Hmm.
sound. You know what I mean? Like
I call
there's no
I call sound spicy air because it's literally just like air with bass. So
right. Yeah, for sure. Well, I think on that note, we could wrap it up here. I really love talking to you, Angel. You know,
same. It's been a while
we
too since
we
we've had
have a lot
like
to
a long
talk
conversation.
about. Yeah, we
Yeah,
have a lot more to talk about. I think we can definitely do this time another time at some point.
totally.
Yeah, I just really appreciate your time. And is there anything you want to share with us before we leave?
Um, be to anyone watching this, I just want to remind you, be willing to try new things. Be willing to take your art in a whole different like 180 out of nowhere and
Mm,
just do it just for the sake of trying it. Because
mm,
realistically, like I think I bought a microscope roughly a year ago. And if you told me when I bought a microscope that I would have a whole lab, a lab coat, and just trying different chemicals and working with some of the different bigger artists I've worked with since then, I would have just been like, there's no way. I need to get back into Unreal. But the ability to always grow and just
mm.
understand that art, like I said, doesn't need to be effective. It just needs to exist is important.
Beautiful. Well, thank you again, my friend, and have a good one.
Thank you. You too. Thanks for having me on.
Wow, what an episode. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to Manda Smash for the intro and outro music. Thank you to Sophie Holder for the amazing internship helping us with all the episodes. And thank you to the guests for coming on and spending time with us. See you next week.